Just let me know where we stand on Facebook so I can share it.
Okay. I'm saying where we're at now. Okay. So the YouTube is good.
Hey YouTube. I don't see your comments yet, so hope everybody's doing well.
Okay. So should be good on Facebook now.
Okay. For whatever reason, it's showing like super duper large on Facebook.
It's showing super large.
Yeah, it just shows like. Well, now never mind. It changed now. My bad. Could have been my computer. What's up, Kwame? I see you, bro. Greetings, Tanya. Tamika, I see you. It's 7 o'clock. Okay. Welcome on, Casper, Jacob. Welcome on, guys. You know, come to YouTube so I can talk back to you now. Okay, here we go. Sandy Acosta, I see you. Hey, Gerald, what's up, brother? Raina, how you doing? Chavis, what's going on? Mad Matt. Hello, Nikki. Adrian, what's up? I'm good, man. LaWanda, what's going on? I hope everybody is doing well. So we're trying something new, guys, today with the music, just something chill. Let us know if you like it, if you don't like it. If you feel like the music is overpowering or whatever, let us know. Joshua, I see you. Kristen, I see you. Hello. Reen, I see you. Or Renee. Michelle Madison, what's up? Gerald, I see you from Detroit. Christine, how you doing? Vita, how you doing? So guys, think about it now. Today I have this definition up. I don't have the actual word that we're defining, but I just have the definition. And it says to teach someone to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. What do you think that word would be? If we're playing what's that, Jeopardy? Thank you, Avery. I appreciate that. Avery said I had bars, y'all. Come check my music out, for real. Now listen, if you come in and listen to my music and you listening for radio type music, that's not what you're gonna get. Alright, I'm old school, not old school like hip hop the hippie, but I am lyrical and I focus more on lyrics, okay? So it's not gonna sound like your typical snap and pop music that, you know, normally is gonna be like your hit songs or whatever. This is hip hop. It's lyrical. I get into it. Knowledge, everything. I try to use my music to speak to a generation. Speak to the future, if you will. Let's shoot Jamal the link whenever you can, Josh.
I got you.
Jamal gonna be coming on soon. Then Lorenzo after that, guys. Much love, Tazzy Taz. Someone says brainwashed. Okay. Oh, Chavis McKay said indoctrinated. Good job, Chavis. That's what it is. Definitely, Nat. Thank you very much for the donation. Again, guys, before we get started, if you do enjoy and if you are getting something from our message and what we teach, feel free to leave a donation. We do use the funds to feed people and provide places for the homeless to stay. All right, so we do spend this money helping the world out and try to change the world for the better. So keep that in mind when you're donating to us. We're not going to build a big old church with it and start driving Cadillacs and getting personal jets, okay? Arthur, what's going on, brother? We good, man. We just waiting till the room get full before we get started. Today we're talking about Christianity's influence on Africa, or the world, so to speak, or the colonization of Africa by Christians. But to teach someone to accept a set of beliefs uncritically, this is to indoctrinate. Now, someone says, well, indoctrinate and teach is the same thing. Not really. If you look them both up, dictionary wise, it is. But the archaic sense of the word is very different. So the way we use the word now, of course, is to indoctrinate means to teach someone a set of beliefs, to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. And if you think about this, we're talking about indoctrinate, not Christianity. But if you think about how you accepted Christianity or religion, period, it goes for Islam or whatever religion you believe in, can you truly say that it was critically? Can you truly say that you were allowed to critique and ask critical questions pertaining to the Bible or the Quran to your elders or at church or anything? Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much, DD's Alchemy 11. Can you say that you are truly able to critically ask questions about this information, about this literature? Or were you told that you were being blasphemous? Were you told that you can't question God? See, everyone's saying no. I could not critically question the Bible. I had to accept it uncritically. I had to just believe it. And many of you guys out there are guilty of the same thing. We accepted it uncritically. And now when you take guys like us, Jamar, myself, Josh, and we take a critical eye and apply it to the Bible or the literature that we grew up believing in for so long, people automatically assume that we're being devils or demonic or evil in some way. But nah, it's just the first time we're all taking the time to look at it.
I sent Jamar the link.
Great. Renee said, I was told to never question God. Exactly. Adrian said, Jamar is the man. Well, Jamar will be here soon. Carnage, the producer, thank you very much, brother. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. When you start asking questions, they have no answers. You're right, Gerald Watkins. That's pretty much what it is. It's not so much that God doesn't like to be questioned. It's that the person that you're asking the question to doesn't have the answer. If you ask questions that are simply literature pertaining, right? They're pretty good with that. Now, not the hard questions, but they're pretty good with the simple questions, and they won't even trip. They don't care how many questions you ask. They won't trip because they have the answer. But when you ask them a question they don't know the answer to, that's when they start flipping. Thank you, Renee. That's so true. Ran a lot said there is no freedom in religion. Absolutely. It's all dead based. It's all dead based. What they mean, I believe, is that every single character that you look to, that you talk about in the Bible is dead, right? You're reading about dead people. We're looking for life, guys, not just reading about stories of dead people. See, J Fry 44 says, born and raised Christian, and I'm in the beginning stages of walking away from religion completely. Where do I start? Wow, you in a good spot. You in a good spot, man. Jay, I would honestly tell you, man, the best thing to do is surround yourself with people who do not agree with you. Honestly, when you surround yourself with people that agree with you, and that's all they do, you don't really have an opportunity to look at what you've been believing in for so long critically, right? Because everybody agrees. It's easy. Man, I walked around my whole life preaching this stuff, to a church full of people, and it went unchallenged. You see what I'm saying? Now, had I went somewhere else to some of these guys like a Ray Hagins or something like that, even way back then, I mean, he's been doing this for 20 years. I mean, he would have been able to say I was wrong. And that would have been the first time I ever heard it, to be honest. So my whole thing is not necessarily just looking for people that agree with you in Christianity. Look for people who disagree with Christianity and why. But you're in the right spot. I'm actually happy for you. Thank you very much, Courtney. My pleasure, Bryant. How you guys like the music?
I don't know if they'll be able to hear it. I guess it's up to them. I tried to listen a little bit. I didn't hear much of it.
I definitely can hear it. Well, obviously, I hear it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me just test it out real quick. Oh, I guess they don't. I think I hear a little bit coming in and out. Oh yeah, it's playing. Yeah, it's playing a little bit. Somebody said Ray Higgins teach the truth. Absolutely. All right, so we understand now that many of us have been indoctrinated. Now that doesn't make the information false, right? So let's talk about it today. We're going to talk about how Christianity was brought about to Africa, how it influenced Africa, and things like that. All right, Jamar, are you here?
Well, he said
Okay.
it didn't let him in, so I'm trying to figure out why.
Okay.
You can just continue, and I'll check in with these still. Just see how I can help him get on.
Cool. All right. So guys, to get us started off, let me just remind everybody about the upcoming event. That'll be, let me see, 1 second. Hey guys, I'm seeing the music is playing in and out. If it continues, I'll just stop it. I want it to be consistent. Like I hear it. It sounds good to me.
I'll pause it.
All right, cool.
As soon as I find the window. Let me show the event banner.
Yes, please. Let's make it large if you don't mind. Cover the screen with it.
Just transition it over.
Absolutely. Thank you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So everybody's been asking me when are we rescheduling the actual event from the Avocado Lounge from the beginning of February or the middle of February. Of course, I had a death in the family. Anybody who didn't know that, this is why I had to reschedule that one. But we did reschedule it. It is set up for the Pan African Connection at 4466 South Marisalis Avenue. Okay, that's Dallas, Texas, guys. That is the 25th of this month. 25th of this month. We don't have the time on that. That event starts at 5, I believe. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me get y'all the time.
I thought it was either like 2 to 3. It ends at 5.
It could be. Let me check real quick. When you're booking tours, guys, it's just hard to keep track of all the dates. We'll get to it. Let's see here. $3 p.m. Sorry. Yeah, 3 o'clock. 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So it's on 3-2-5, and it's from 3 to 5. See that, guys? It's pretty cool. Wordplay.
Numerology. Jamar says he's getting Skype installed on his phone, I think.
Okay, bet.
You want me to transition it off?
Yes, please.
Alright.
All right, guys, we back. Let's see. I need to have this screen big enough so I can see it and read the comments. If you don't mind.
I got you. Well, did you want just the comments, or did you want me to blow you up with it, or?
Yeah. Actually, that a whole box thing. My whole little screen there. Yeah, perfect.
Like this?
Yes, sir. And let's see here. Let's run that video of a lady talking about. Now, listen, guys, before I play this video, a lot of you guys, I believe, and someone said, when am I coming to Detroit? I will let you guys know as soon as I know. Chicago actually will be soon, too. I'll get you guys the whole tour as soon as I get it completed, guys. So what was I going to say? Yeah, a lot of you guys are going to remember being in this place. Remember saying things like this. Remember thinking like this. But this lady, of course, is thankful for slavery. And why is she thankful for slavery? Because that is how we supposedly found Jesus, right? Without slavery, we would be in Africa worshiping something else. And this is the general thought. And the general thought is that they're proud or at least happy for slavery, even though slavery was so horrible. They can appreciate slavery for the simple fact they found Jesus through it, right? And we've all heard this, and a lot of us were guilty of saying it. I once said it, so don't feel bad out there if you said this before. We're not bashing, but this is just simply showing you how bad you can be under the spell. All right, Josh, if you don't mind, let's play that video.
Okay, I gotta take you out of full screen. That's how it makes it a little bit more easier to kind of navigate.
Oh, okay.
This video, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm turning it up, make sure they can hear it.
All right.
Daniel's mission to get organized back into
to adopt rules that require all schools and all in a conspicuous motto.
In God she trusts. Wants every public school to display "In God we trust."
The spiritual air force and the demons in the air and on the earth.
A self-proclaimed preacher and exorcist, she's never been shy about this theocratic goal, openly proclaiming it as she fights demons, battles witches, breaks curses.
But God had to anoint me to go in the gates of the city, to go in the chambers of the city, to write laws and to be able to debate and write legislation so that his kingdom could come and manifest itself like never before.
Arena have to be kingdom-minded. Theocracy of God, the kingdom agenda, as opposed to the government.
Jacksonville, Florida, and don't nobody tell me I can't pray nowhere. I can pray anywhere I go. Now you gonna let me swear in on the Bible and tell me I can't preach it? The devil is a liar. Hey, come on!
I say, Ashiba. It's just the beginning. As said and done.
And you can talk about the Holocaust, but the Jews own everything. I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house. If it wasn't for the crack house, come on somebody, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
Okay, Josh, let's pause it for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all saying they can't hear it. It's fading in and out.
It says going in and out?
Yeah, I guess the same way the music was doing.
People are reacting to what she said, maybe. I don't know.
Those all those top comments that are coming in. And turn it up, please. Can't hear it. Sounds going in and out.
No, the audio was low, but I did hear what she was saying. I did have to increase it on my end.
Oh.
But I increased your YouTube as high as it can go. Let me see if there's something else I can change.
All right, cool.
No, that's it, Miss Max.
Dari said we heard the main point. Cool.
Let me, guys, on your end, since some people can hear, some people can't. I know it's a little lower than normal. Increase your YouTube to, as high as you can, or if you're on Facebook, increase that as high as you can. We'll run it through one more time, just for the people that didn't hear it. Um, how's that sound, Kev?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, guys, this
Thank you,
increase.
RA. Jamal said he's on too, just he can't see the video.
I know. I'm gonna talk to Jamar while I play this again.
Okay, fantastic.
Florida State Representative Kimberly Daniels is on a mission, a religious mission, to get organized religion back into the public schools.
To adopt rules that require all schools and all buildings used by the school to display in a conspicuous place the state motto, "In God We Trust."
In God she trusts, so she wants every public school to display, "In God we trust."
The spiritual air force and the demons in the air and on the earth.
A self-proclaimed preacher and exorcist, she's never been shy about this theocratic goal, openly proclaiming it as she fights demons, battles witches, and breaks curses.
But God had to anoint me to go in the gates of the city, to go in the chambers of the city, to write laws and to be able to debate and write legislation so that his kingdom could come and manifest itself like never before.
We have to be kingdom-minded, no matter what realm we operate in. Even in every position that I hold, where I'm working in the professional arena, where I'm working in the legislative arena, we have to be kingdom-minded. Theocracy of God, the kingdom agenda, as opposed to the government agenda.
I'm a commissioner in Jacksonville, Florida, and don't nobody tell me I can't pray nowhere. I can pray anywhere I go. Now you gonna let me swear in on the Bible and tell me I can't preach it? The devil is a liar.
Hey, come on! Hey, Shabbat, Marseille, 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 Mashibalia. Hey, Alalamohosha.
That's just the beginning. Daniels has said and done far worse.
And you can talk about the Holocaust, but the Jews own everything. I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house. If it wasn't for the crack house, come on somebody, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
In the United States, laws are only legitimate, constitutional, if they have a secular purpose. Daniels' only purpose is to promote her religion, to force her God onto other people's children.
I am an elected official. That's crazy. A demon buster that write laws.
Okay. That was
All right,
Jamar
so-
getting his they said they can hear the babies. That's Jamar getting things set up.
Yeah, I can hear it too. I assume that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. So you actually can get video, but I'm trying to see how I can show him on here. I don't know if I can just yet,
Okay.
but I'll try to.
All right, that'd be great. So, guys, what do you think of that video? I know a lot of us know a lot of people, okay, who actually talk like this and believe this way. One of the things that stood out to me is that she said that, you know, the Lord has commissioned her to debate and do all these things illegally, right? To be able to push her agenda, really, but she's using it to say it's God's agenda. When she doesn't understand this, is a lot similar to what we're talking about tonight, is people believing that all-knowing, all-perfect, all-powerful God would call on you to personally do anything when it comes to spreading its word, in any form or whatever, to think that it would need your help and need you to, especially that kind of help, force, you know. And it's funny when people say this, you know, they want their prayer back in school or prayer everywhere else or whatever, but they're mainly talking about their religion. They're not talking about freedom for everyone to pray to whoever they want to pray to. They're not saying that. They're talking about praying to their God only. So when people say this, it's always really biased, you know. But she said something about, you know, if it wasn't for the crack house, you know, she wouldn't be in the position she is today. My thought is, did she develop any you know, like brain illnesses when she was in that place in her life, in the crack house, so to speak? Because she doesn't seem like she's all there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It just doesn't seem like she's all there. Crack-ish. What was it they used to say on BT?
Crack-ish.
You probably don't remember that. That's old school comic view. Hey, y'all, who said crack-ish? Who over 30 can tell me who said crack-ish? I forget his name, comedian. You might not be a crackhead, but you crack-ish. Is that on the SJ? I think that's on the SJ. Somebody tell me if you know who that is. It might be on the SJ. All right, so nevertheless, moving on, guys. I have a question for you guys. All right, and Josh, if you don't mind, let's bring that other video up.
Okay. Let me go ahead and play it.
Nah, just 1 second. I'll let you know when. All right, guys. So you see this building burning behind me. I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions. We're going to just have 1 minute here. All right. I want you to consider this. Hang on 1 second. Let me see what everybody's saying. Somebody say Martin. Jamie Foxx said crackish. He might have said that. It might have been Jamie Foxx too. It might have been Jamie Foxx. You crackish. Could have been. All right, so listen, everybody. I want your attention, okay? Josh, you can hit play.
Okay.
So just imagine for me that you're in a burning building. You and your colleagues in a burning building. You don't know how to get out. All of a sudden, you get a call from the security guard, the chief of security, right? But he's not speaking to you personally. He's speaking to you through a device. One person, not a crowd of people. When he could simply use an intercom, he chooses to simply use an earpiece, telling one person to calm down everyone just so he could tell them where to go. The problem with that is, how can you get everybody to calm down? Secondly, how you know the guy's a good person? How you know he's not leading you just into more fire? So my question is, if a holy God had the opportunity to speak to you through intercom or earpiece, he would have used an earpiece, right? And yet you choose to believe that God chose prophets to write this book, okay, and a king to give you his version of it. When none of these religions can survive 2 words, prove it. And at the end of the day, this is exactly what you get. A slave or a person who has been injured by their slave master, in love with their slave master. Excuse me. That's not something I want to play right now. My bad.
I paused it.
Cool. So let's go back to that. Let's pull that video back up, Josh.
This one?
Yes, I'm just going to click to a certain part of here. Okay, let's see here. All right, so while we got this part right here on the screen, is that on the screen, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right, so while we have this part on the screen, I want you to consider this now. An all-knowing, all-powerful God, right, who knows everything before it happens. I'm seriously, knows everything, right? Can communicate with anyone, completely intelligent. Now, imagine this, okay? You are in a burning building, okay? You have someone on the phone with you, earpiece. They're going to communicate with you through an earpiece and have you to tell everyone how to get out of that fire without getting burned. But how can everybody trust you? How would they know to trust you? Why would they listen to you? While everyone's panicking, why would they listen to you saying, calm down? Now, an all-knowing God will still choose you to use this earpiece instead of an intercom, knowing that just by your look alone, some people won't listen to you, right? If you're a woman, people won't listen to you just because you're a woman, right? And if you're a man, based on what color you are, people may not listen to you, right? We all have these walls built up, right? So people are going to write you off for whatever reason. Now, this all-knowing God could have used the intercom and just told everybody in the building how to safely escape. But he doesn't. He tells one person with an intercom in their ear, an earpiece in their ear that's so small no one can hear it. They cannot verify that the person is actually talking to someone who can see what's going on inside the building. Now I want you to think about this. The biblical God chose the earpiece. Please tell me the logic in that. When you can tell everyone about this fire at the same time and get them safely out of the building, why would you choose an earpiece? Now just imagine this. You're on the earpiece and you're telling the person, hey, listen, there's no way I'm gonna calm all these people down. They're running frantically, right? They're all over the place. I'm screaming, they can't hear me. What do you want me to do about the people who don't listen to me? And that person yells out, let them burn in the fire. If they don't listen to you, let them burn in the fire. What does that tell you about the person you're talking to? Now they have access to an intercom and they can speak loudly for everyone to hear it with no one burning in the fire. Yet chooses to use one lone person. One person. Not now, this is what I'm saying. We look at this book, Revelations, and we read it as if it's something being revealed to us. When you think about the word revelation, it's not broad. It's individual. If something's revealed to Josh or Lorenzo, it's revealed to Josh or Lorenzo, not Kevin. Only them. So what I'm trying to say is, you guys have taken what you believe to be truth, that you're saying prophets or writers have written way in the past, and now you believe their words. You see, you believe their revelation, when even if they were serious, even if they meant what they were saying, you can't prove they were telling you the truth. So how can you adopt this information? And that's my whole point. We have literature now, just like that earpiece, that one or two men or a few men may have heard and wrote some stuff in a book. And now the whole world has to believe that those men was actually talking to somebody or burning this fire. Where's the logic in that?
I think Jamal was gonna say something.
Jamal, you on?
I'm on.
Bruh, what's going on?
What's good, brother?
What's up, man?
It's good to be here, as always.
Good to have you,
my
man.
Second home.
Heck yeah, I miss you, man. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks
Indeed.
for the call. Thanks for allowing me on.
Indeed, brother.
I mean, you already know, like, there ain't no logic in that. Anybody, it ain't even no sense of playing with the semantics. You know, when you're dealing with a God that can give you all the technology in the world, when you give him, even if it ain't a God, even if it's something that we may be misinterpreting, if you're dealing with any divine source that has the ability to create things from scratch, a whole situation from scratch, from whether it be a male, a female, an entire world, a galaxy, a universe, and he decides to only give this person, this one person that we can't even verify information about how to get safely out of this environment.
Tell it, Jamal. Tell it.
This dude is he's more than a loser. He's an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like whoever you're following is a real asshole. He's worse than the dude from the Truman Show sitting up in the moon, just watching Truman go bonkers.
Absolutely.
Like, let's create a storm. Like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? There has to be something more to this. And when you look at it, it's like, this is the same dude that gave us the imagination to make the damn Wakanda story of Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows the technology that can be used to make this whole situation go away like that.
Right.
But yet he refuses to actually give. I mean, y'all gotta really think about this, y'all, and just y'all really have to reconsider what you've been taught and realize that the people that you've been following your entire life may not be correct. You know, even if it's just a maybe, it's worth the research to figure out if what you're learning is accurate. If it's you can figure out if it's logical. You all know that it's not logical. Okay, so in all the evidence that's been laid out, just makes you understand that cognitive dissonance is real if you choose not to pay attention to it. So at some point in time, and right now we're in a diaspora where people are waking up all over the world. You know, it's not even a game anymore. Time is running out for the powers that be that are orchestrating this circus. And, you know, it's just a beautiful thing to see Black people, to see all people of all races really figuring this thing out and realize we've all been duped. It's not even just Africa. It's the entire world.
Absolutely.
Has been duped to fight against one another, and they
Mhm.
don't realize that there's a larger enemy at play that likes to see them fight against one another, and they're benefiting from it.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And which begs the question. You see what I'm saying? Like you take this person who, like we were just talking about, you said this person has to be a complete jerk. He's cruel, right? He's on the phone with you and he's choosing to direct you by way of earpiece, right? You'd have to ask the question, did this person set this whole thing up like this? Is he the person that set the building on fire? Like, why are you being such a jerk? You can use the intercom, but instead you're trying to play a game. You're trying to make me tell all these people. And someone commented while you were talking, Jamal, they said that in a burning building, people wouldn't even have time to think. And that's what I want people to consider. As a child, when you were told these stories, you were essentially in a burdened building. You're a child hearing that if you die, you can potentially go to a place where your soul burns for an eternity and just continues to burn and never stops, and you're just tortured. At any moment, you could die. This is the equivalent to being in a burning building. You don't have time to go study any other literature or even the literature they're giving you to decide if you want to submit to it. But you're going to submit to it, ain't you? Because you trust your parents. It has nothing to do with the literature. So what, Jamal?
Facts. Facts. And you know, we got to come to that realization that, you know, whatever your parents tell you, whatever world they shape for you is the world that you're going to run with and you believe. And sometimes it might even be your parents. You spend more time with your teachers than you will do your parents. So whatever school you went to, the environment that you were in when you were being educated about how the world works is everything to you. Your church, whatever doctrine that was given to you to give you what your lifestyle is, how you view your lifestyle and who you are, it was all given to you. It was not something that you just figured out from the time you were born. You didn't have the Bible strapped to your butt when you were born. You didn't have a cross tattooed on your chest when you were born. You didn't know any of this stuff. Somebody taught you this, even the language that you speak. So it's like, is it safe to say that now because you speak English and everybody else speaks French, does that mean that the French people who don't understand who Jesus is, they go to hell automatically? Everybody that's Asian that speak Chinese, because they didn't learn who Jesus is, they go to hell.
Right.
Listen to your logic. You understand? The only difference between you and somebody else, especially as an African, is a boat ride, a boat stop during slavery. That will determine what nationality you literally are right now and what language you would be speaking.
Jamal, the fact is, they suppress the actual mental state of their own people to push this religion. So it's just like you said, the difference is a boat stop. You have people who have the color skin who would classify themselves as Caucasian and don't even realize that their own ancestors' mental state was diluted to accept this literature. You see what I'm saying? They didn't just say, let's give it to black people and then tell white people that it's really not true. We're just using it to make better slaves. No, Christianity was something that was used to trade. Like you were going to convert to Christianity just to trade with these people. That's the only way you could even trade and have food. Like, they made it impossible to operate by a different religion and trade foreign, domestically, or any sort. You'd be murdered.
Yeah, and I think that that's the diaspora that we all need to realize how deep this rabbit hole goes. You know, when you have white people hitting you in your inbox saying, thank you, brother, I had no idea why my people act the way they act, why they're doing what they're doing, it opens your eyes to a whole different level of a demon that we're dealing with, a whole different level of evilness and just snakeness. It's like they don't care who they're doing this to, as long as them in their immediate vicinity is well taken care of. They will kill their own to hold on to this power, and that's something that has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
One, Lorenzo's definitely on scratching the mic like a cat. Two, I'm gonna try to see if I can get to show Jamal on the screen. Oh my God, Lorenzo! Hold on. I'm gonna try to see if I can get Jamal on the screen, but I gotta leave the call, I think, for a sec. So just to try that out. But
is that better?
Yes.
What about can you get it to where Renz can get on, or does he want to be on?
I mean, it's up to him. I'm just trying to see. Yeah, he's on. There he goes.
Renz, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I got
What's going on, brother?
Nothing much, my brothers. What's up, Jamal?
Peace, King.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, we got a little reunion going on here.
Facts, man, my brothers. Good to see y'all, man.
Man, heck yeah.
Let it know.
So I don't know how long you've been on, Lorenzo, but Jamal and myself were just going in a little bit before we got started.
I've been on since the beginning.
Oh, okay, heck yeah. What you think so far?
Oh, no, it's on point. Like, I saw that video with the lady talking about, thank God for slavery.
Mm-hmm.
That was ridiculous just in itself. Was even more ridiculous. I wrote a little satire piece about that like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the ministers that I showed it to, they actually thought it was good and wanted to preach it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do you really understand you're telling people thank God for slavery? That, as you were saying in the other piece, that you want them to be thankful that God said the only way I can get these sub-Saharan Africans to know who I am is to have these ships come around and take them over into a foreign land and beat the crap out of them in order to get them to believe that he couldn't cross the Sahara Desert by some means, that wouldn't work, or that he couldn't have just started there. I mean, like, come over and let everybody know at the same time. I mean, they'll say stuff like, well, it's written on your heart. Well, if it's written on your heart, then why did...
When you know it already?
Everybody went in their own direction. The Hindu, the Jewish, the Buddhist, the African ancestry, the Native Americans, everybody went in their own kind of mindset. But if you look at it deeply and take away man's connections and man's writings, and you can see some universality to it, but it's not you got to do this way. You got to take that step.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go through the 8 things of the Buddhist. You get rid of all of that and just see the purity, and it's all divinity within when you go down to the purity of it all. But the fact that this omnipresent, omniscient being can't talk to everybody at the same time, that's ridiculous. That's like me I got 6 kids in my house, and I got to go in each room and talk to each one? No, I talk to all of them.
Such and such. Go tell your brothers and sisters I said this.
Exactly.
And if they don't believe you, look, go tell them something crazy though. Go tell your brothers and sisters I said kill each other. If they don't believe you, tell them I'm gonna kill them.
You remember the monkey vine conversation where you say the first say something?
Yeah.
By the time you get to the last one, it's completely different.
Absolutely.
Telephone.
That's what that would be like. And you know what? Here's the thing about I got 3 kids, and I've done that where I've told one of them to tell the other ones to do something. And by the time it gets to the third one, it's something completely different.
Something totally different, dude.
Well, as a good parent, I would, hey, family meeting. Tell everybody at the same time. Make sure they all understand it and not walk away with different meanings.
Right.
I'm human.
Right.
And I got more than that.
Right.
This creation that they made, man, please, that's just control.
Thank you, Eve.
Control based on their community.
That's a fact.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like whenever we talk about the silly and the illogical things in the Bible, we get called being facetious, right? We're just trying to be silly or make jokes about the Bible. When in reality, like, this is why I'm using this background today, guys. It's Samuel Jackson, that character he played on Django, hugging his master when he's killed. Now, this man has beat, raped, murdered, lynched, castrated your family members, right? Your ancestors. And you're hugging this man while he's dead. Like, you want this man to live. Your slave. He's in love with his slave master. And this is the simple fact of religious people, Christians today, and their literature. That Bible came by way of the same rape. I'm talking about the same stuff we're talking about. And they still love the literature. And it's like, how can you love the literature of some that came from someone like that? Well, it's neither here nor there, right? We don't believe that the people who enslaved us, hung us, raped us, and castrated us has anything to do with the actual God in this Bible, even though they forced us to read it, even though it was made for us, even though there was no King James Bible or no Bible for black people, period, until 1611. We still believe in the words from this person. Even though we don't have the Bible that was first forced on people, we're still going to believe this King James Version. And it's so crazy that most of them won't read any other Bible but the King James Version. And it's like, what makes you respect King James so I'm talking about in such high regard that you won't read any other version but his, when he is also the author of demonic books.
Demonology.
So why is he so trusted and respected? I think it's simply that they don't want to let go of this literature. They think that somehow the actions of their slave masters and the literature are two totally different things. You see, like, you got a holy word through an unholy act, and we're supposed to just be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it deals with the relationships, I think, first and foremost, because we have to look at all the variables, right? You meet some great people in the church. That's just hands down, right? Sometimes it's your parents, your mothers, your fathers, your influence, but a lot of times it's the relationships they've developed in the process that they don't want to let go of. And for the sake of saying that they haven't done anything evil to these people, they don't want to do anything bad to them or say, that this person is evil simply because of their religion. And I get all of that. You can find good in a lot of situations. You can find good being on a basketball team or a baseball team, right? You can find good people being at your job. There's a lot of ways to be in an environment or a space or some sort of social structure where you find great people. Even on the internet, we've seen that, right? Mm-hmm. So for some people, when that's all you got, right, mm-hmm. that they want to hold on to that, even if it's not right. I mean, you have people that are in organizations that literally kill people, but because these people have given them sandwiches when they didn't have a sandwich, or put a coat on their back, right, they don't want to turn their back on them. And I get all of that. Right. But when you are given the option and you are told the truth about what your organization is built on fundamentally and the foundations of it, where it comes from, what it's doing to people in the long run, you're supposed to pay attention to that type of information at some point in time. So, but I do get why they do it. And I think that's important for people like us, for the leaders who understand. We still have to understand why they are in the state that we're in, that they're in, that we're in as well, mm-hmm. because of it, and we have to be able to explain that and communicate to them, why they need to change that and what the other options are. I'm not a believer in just taking religion from them and not being able to replace it with something what's better, right? Because we can all figure out the problem, but there's no reward in that. We have to give them a solution. And this is what I love about this platform, what Kevin is doing and the others who are standing up, Coach Renz, everybody that's standing up and showing them there's other ways to do this. We can replace this with something in its original form that's way more pure. It's a lot more safer. It's not going to damage everyone around you, for the sake of power. It's just, there's so many options. So anybody who doesn't pay attention to that ultimately just doesn't want to actually engage in what it's supposed to be about, what religion is supposed to be doing, right? Which is bringing people together, unity. They really don't want to do that, because that's a lot of work.
Right, absolutely. If you do away with these religions, you can have this unity. It actually, yes. Unity becomes a lot closer within grasp. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna show you something because right here, like I said, I use my man Samuel Jackson because I'm thinking that these slaves, in order to be able to love your slave master with the way they did, you'd have to ignore some of the clear things that they did, right? And still look at them and say that they're good. The same way we do about the biblical God. He can do something completely evil, and we'll still say he's all good, right? So I want to show something. Josh, is there any way possible for you to work my computer and let them see it, like make them see our screen? I sent you a link to a Codex Sinaiticus in your messenger.
Yeah. Right now it's really, right now it's really complicated, to say the short. Like, I just had to go through a lot of loopholes to get. I could try it. I'm just letting you know, it might not be clean. What are you trying to do?
All right, so let's see here.
You trying to show?
I sent you a link to the Codex Sinaiticus.
You trying to show that to Renz and Jamar, or you mean to the audience?
Yeah, to the audience.
Oh, okay.
You guys gonna love this, man. This just gonna get us started off. From there, we're gonna hammer in on the history of Christianity in terms of Africa and the world, and we're just gonna look at what I'm hoping to do is we're gonna talk about the things that people did to push Christianity. This has nothing to do with the actual existence of Jesus or the biblical God. Anything. Just we're going to talk about how the Bible was taught to people. How did everybody become Christian, right? How did most of the world become Christian? Is it really because some God came and died and rose again, and it spread it throughout word? Or was it murder and war? And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, that's regardless if Jesus exists or not, for any Christians that may be watching tonight. The fact that Jesus may have existed, or you think he existed, and he was still taught through war, that should still bother you. But this right here I want to show you guys, because I know a lot of times we can talk to Christians all day, right? And they don't hear us. All they want to hear is what they've been raised to believe and raised to accept in the Bible. You can show them blatant, obvious discrepancies in their Bible. Well, I'm going to show them one today that they cannot argue with, okay? The simple fact is this. There was a Bible long before there was a King James Version, right? Now, why do we have a King James Version? Because King James was king whenever we were being colonized and enslaved and shipped to America. Now, I'm going to show you guys something that proof positive. King James was changing the Bible to fit his own agendas, okay? Now, obviously, before the regular Bible, what we have now, you have different codexes. They are in Greek, right? These things predate the actual Bible. Now, Lorenzo will see this and know instantly. I know Jamal know too. I know Lorenzo's definitely into this stuff like this, though. I can't wait to Josh get this pulled up, because soon as you guys see it, and you'll be able to speak more to it. I don't want to say no more, because I don't want to give it away before he pulls it up.
I'm not gonna say what I'm already thinking about that aspect of it. But while we waiting on Josh, and with that picture that you had in the background, let me semi-quote.
All right,
Brother Mount, real quick, when he said that there was another kind of slave on the plantation. That slave was a house slave, and he loved his master. And he loved his master more than he loved himself.
Yeah.
I say he loved his master more than he loved himself. If the master was sick, he said, "We sick, boss? We sick?" He said, "Master, we got a good house here. We got a good house here." And if the house catch on fire, the house Negro was more apt to try to save the house than the master himself. And we still got some house Negroes running around here. We just call them house. It ain't. It's one of my favorite speeches.
What's crazy, this stuff was said so long ago, and you still like, wow, it's powerful. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Exactly.
Dang.
I'm gonna catch you up for that one.
Right. We sick, boss.
We sick. And that thing, I heard that in 1990, and I was just looking around like, man, I see so much of that. And I know we about to talk about how the King James Bible, and there's a little bit of history I want to give you on that one, but I want to see what you're gonna do first before I go there.
Okay, cool.
But the thing about it is these people who have taken this part that you about to show and flipped it to try to make it to blackwash this thing, to make it seem like we still should be caught up into that book. And that way is amazing to me, because it is the epitome of the house Negro who still look at that book and said, "We's the chosen ones, boss. Right. We's the children." Is all they're saying.
Like, why would an almighty, all-knowing, loving God have chosen ones? Like, it's just stupid. You see what I'm saying? Like, chosen ones? Come on, man. All right, cool. Josh, can you transfer that now?
Yes.
All right. So, guys, we talked about the Codex Sinaiticus. Now, Deuteronomy 28 and 68. We know that Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is supposed to say something about being taken back to a foreign land in ships, right? And being enslaved for 400 years and all of this hoopla. This is what we're taught. This is what Deuteronomy 68 says, right? In fact, let me pull it up and read it. Deuteronomy 20, is that 26 and 68? 28 and 68, yeah. This is the scripture a lot of people hang on to when they talk about, prophecy, right? Is prophecy real? Because this scripture says this, and this happened, right? Let's see here. And guys, let me get it in here. All right, the Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. Right? So Lorenzo, Jamar, you guys have heard this scripture said, I'm sure, 1,000,000 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you see here, I said what, Lorenzo?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, Deuteronomy 68 on the right side. Notice at 68, you see it's all in Greek. Now, underneath that, see it says no English translation available on the site.
Right.
I find that really funny that we're on the Codex site and it says there's no translation available. I mean, we know that people can translate Greek, right?
Right.
Now, when I tell people that when you look at this actual scripture, it says something about children, like a really short scripture. You can look at the Greek here and tell it doesn't say all of that. That this is what the actual Bible says. This thing says the Lord will bring you back to Egypt in ships by the way about which I spoken to you, that you will never see it again. And there you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but there will be no buyer. Does it look like that could possibly say that? 68.
It definitely don't say that.
It's too short, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, what I want to show you is something crazy. You can take and copy and paste that. Now, that's what I wanted to see if you would do, Josh, is copy and paste this. And we're going to go to Google Translate.
Mm-hmm.
And simply just type this in, and it will translate it for you. But the actual site said that there's no translation for it. And when you translate it, it is a simple scripture about children that literally doesn't even make sense. And King James took this scripture out, okay, and then put in the one about slaves, just right after slavery, just to justify slavery. And the Bible's full of this stuff now. Now, not to mention the other literature was stolen and plagiarized anyway, but it was also manipulated to fit their own agendas.
You want to? Well, this is the one I think. This is the site we just came from. I think.
Right? Yeah. Just type in translate in Google.
Hold on.
Well, nah, just type translate. Period. If you just type, it does it okay right there.
What?
Just type in the word translate, and it'll bring up a little box for you to paste in what you're trying to say. Yeah, just enter your text right there.
No, probably should do the same thing.
Well, that's what I did. I copied it from there. Just paste it right there. Okay, so can you show that to everybody, or can they see it?
It's there now.
Okay, guys, you see the translated version of this says, check it out, your enemies, child, and you have not the poor man. Doesn't even make sense. I swear, listen, dude, you cannot make this stuff up. You see my point now? Like, black people have been holding on to this scripture for so long, dude, thinking that this was prophecy. This was said long before it happened. This crap was added, and we still don't want to let this book go. That's exactly why I use Samuel L. Jackson right there, because we ignore. Now, many people who believe in this literature, Jamar and Lorenzo and Josh, they're going to ignore what I just showed them.
Yeah, they will.
But they can simply go look this stuff up for themselves and say, well, Kevin, you can't just think stuff is on Google. Man, Google translated this. I didn't tell Google what to say, no nothing. I copied and pasted it right there, man. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Cognitive dissonance, I mean, it's very, very strong, man. But like I always say, you can't unsee what you just saw and you can't unhear what you just heard. So at that point, from this information on, from this moment on, once you have this rendered, there's no way you're going to be able to come back from this, man. I mean, it's pretty much right there in your face, the alterations. Like, it's no secret that this Bible has been stepped on, many, many times. This is not the blue magic. This is not the raw, uncut version of the truth. This is without a doubt something that is like 0.1% anything that has to deal with divine words or prophecy or anything like that. Like, it's just, it's really bad. It's the worst of the worst. And when you really realize it, and for me, I was dealing with Christianity for about 35 years, and when I realized it, when I finally came to the conclusion, I said, man, I was dealing with the lowest face on the totem pole when it came to actually connecting to the divine and spirituality. Like, out of all of them, Christianity, and all the religions that I've seen, that I've studied, Christianity is the most tainted one. And this is a pure example right here. You probably take the rest of the book and see that it's probably all like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. no separation from church and state during that time. So whatever the king said is what goes.
Right.
So we have to get a strong grasp on history, basic history, in order to understand what was going on in that book.
Right, and even in saying that, understanding that this book, you're getting this from a king's version, right? Every scripture you start seeing now, when you start reading these scriptures that say that the Lord ordained every man and woman that's in power, and you should bow down to what they say like you would God, right?
Yes.
Like, you got to think, like, really, would a God say that? You see what I'm saying? Like, would an all-loving God say that? You're right. Give you the command to just bow down to whoever's in charge, regardless of what they're demanding. You see what I'm saying? No, they wouldn't. Yeah. So you have to think a king would have had to say that.
Right. It sounds like a king's word. And even the word Lord, if you study basic history back then, when you say the word Lord could mean anything. And it mostly pertained to not a divine God, but it pertained to a king or a husband or any like male figure of authority. Lord wasn't necessarily a God in heaven. That just wasn't the word that they used during that time that we're discussing here.
If you see it in the Bible, it'll be all caps. If it's talking about actual Yahweh or whatever, it'll be all caps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. This is powerful.
Thank you.
It is.
Good,
now, let me add a little bit more to it, if you don't mind.
Let's go.
A little bit more historical background on that book in itself. So I think most people will know, and I came to this when I was about 17 years old, and I had found the King James version. Then I found the librarian showed me the authorized King James version. Now there's a difference between the King James and the authorized King James. You see, the authorized King James is what James and his 54 scribes were actually looking to produce, right? Now, we know that he was trying to produce this. One of the reasons was that he wanted to take away the power of the Catholic Church over England. Because if we go back, his grandfather Henry wanted to leave, and then Mary, Mary Queen of Scots, known as Bloody Mary, she killed everybody to go back from the Church of England back to being Catholic. And then here comes James. He wants to get control of his country. So that's one other reason why he wanted to create this book, right? Now, the Catholics got wind of this, so they appointed the Jesuits to get in contact with those who are still faithful to the Pope in England. And they had, and I want people to go look this up, the gunpowder plot. They committed to the gunpowder plot where they were going to blow up the House of Lords in order to kill James, his daughter, and those scribes who were participating in this process of writing this book. But it was discovered, the plot was foiled. They executed the people who were in charge. So then what the Jesuits did was say, well, we can't beat him to writing his own book, but what we will do is that we will write our own version of a King James Bible. Wow. Now, what happened years and years later, as the Catholics got back into control with the Queen Elizabeth and all them, is that the Catholic version of the King James started being the one that all these other New Standards, Living Bibles, all these things are translated from that one, from the Catholic Jesuit version that is ascribed to King James, while the unauthorized one isn't. But what they did do is that since they were in the time of slavery, they went ahead and left that part in there because the Catholic Church was a huge proponent of the transatlantic slave trade. So you got both sides of the fence making sure that little piece of inaccurate information of plagiarism or addition, whatever you want to call it, was added to this book. And it was all power plays over the people that they was enslaving, the money that they was making from this enslavement, and a battle over white supremacy over white supremacy. So, I mean, I want people to go look up gunpowder plot.
It's funny, man, but I actually just saw that today. Actually, just researching the history of more of the history, just so we could do this show tonight. I saw that gunpowder plot. I didn't get to read all the way into it, but I did see it there, though. I was looking at a timeline and it actually showed it pop up there. That's pretty cool that you mentioned that.
And
now.
Just to add a little thing in there, the current Pope is a Jesuit.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And if you go like here in Atlanta, the Jesuit compounds they're huge. They're like mega church for mega churches, but only like 10 guys up there. But they got this big, massive building and constructs all over the city.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that Masonic rule right there. Yeah. That's crazy.
So what I want to do is I want to put this video up with this timeline. Josh, if you don't mind, we'll put that video up. You can actually cover the whole screen with it. And we're going to pause it in certain sections. And Jamal Lorenzo and myself is going to speak to some of the timeline that's on it. Anything that you wanted to say on what we talked about, Jamal, while he's loading that up?
Man, we could talk about this all day, man. I mean, there's just so many layers to how this came to be when we're dealing with Christianity and its inception, especially when we're dealing with Africa and its influence on African people. We have to definitely keep in mind that this was already settled before we came over into the States, how this was going down, because before they used Christianity to solidify the United States and build that civilization, they also used those same concepts to help colonize Africa. You know, these people were converted before they even got on the ship. You know, so we have to understand that it's a lot deeper than just them whipping you into believing Christianity. People these Africans were waiting for the good ship Jesus to come back and get them. You understand? Because it had already taken some of their family members, and their family members just signed on and got on the boat. You know, so they were already converted and ready to go into it as well. So, you know, this has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries before it got to any of the islands, any of the Caribbean, any of the states. You know, and you know, the Bible is a very, very you got to tip your hat. It's a well constructed piece of work. You know, but there's a reason why you don't see the artifacts of the Bible in these museums. There's a reason why people aren't, you know, fighting over any of what they call the artifacts of the biblical text. It's because it's just simply just a book. It's just a novel, you know, and this book was not written or even given to the people mass wise until the printing press was invented in 1409. You know, so when you're dealing with a book, you already know that they're backdating information because they couldn't have spread it throughout the world, throughout the masses until they had a printing press. So how do they have these divine words written and it's not written in a way that everybody can have access to it? Only a couple of people actually had the actual text. And some of the text that they have that's written in Greek is on pieces of paper no bigger than a credit card, no bigger than a cell phone, about that much. And they've somehow filled in a whole chapter and books, verses, you know, and some of the information that they have, like the book of Luke. The only artifact that they have of the book of Luke is literally the size of a credit card in a museum. Okay, so we just got to do a little bit of research. Even here's the thing: even if you wanted to prove it to be accurate, right? At least prove it to be accurate. Go and do the research and prove it to be accurate, and let's see what you come up with. Because that's ultimately what happened to me. I wanted to prove Jesus right. You understand? That's how I wanted to prove it right.
What I did.
Yeah, I'm looking like, wait a minute, like what's going on here? There's no way I can look at this and unsee what I just saw.
I mean, it's crazy because, like, the sheer fact nobody wrote about the guy when he supposedly existed, and the most disturbing thing about it is he never wrote about himself, and he was God in the flesh. He would have known that would be a problem. The sheer fact is more people wrote about the Des Bryant catch or non-catch than they did about Jesus' death, birth, and resurrection.
Come on, man. You know,
dude, that's hilarious. You think?
And then you have Moses writing.
They still talking about Des Bryant catch to this day.
Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, and yet he talks about him dying, and he talks about where he was buried.
Right.
And nobody knows where he was buried, but he was buried here.
Right. Come on. I know, man. Like, come on now. This man told us where he was buried. Who does that?
Amazing. I mean, you just can't. You can't Belle Biv DeVoe your way out of this. You understand? There's no way you're gonna dance around these these topics that's coming in the future years to come, and even right now. These children are being born now. The generation that we're in, they're being born programmed to ask questions, right? We weren't asking questions before, but now
Absolutely.
because of the internet, you can't lie no more. If somebody tells me what's going on in Africa right now, back in the day, you might be able to get away with what we might have thought is going on in Africa. But now you can just get in contact with somebody in Africa. Hey, what's going on over there? And they're going to be able to tell you and give you video and pictures. You can't lie no more.
As a matter of fact, bro, somebody commented on this video, or on the post for this video, and said that they from Africa, right? Yeah. And they said that most Africans still believe that Jesus is a Caucasian man. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when you think about this, to think that this literature, that this Jesus person actually did live in Africa and live and die, and all these people knew about him, why would Africans still think that he was Caucasian? Why?
That's the power of the indoctrination. They don't have any, like, I've spoken to many Africans who don't know anything that's going on right in their own town, right in their own city, and there are some areas where there's really scholarly people, but because of the different wars and the different barriers, a lot of people are withheld from that information. Like even the videos that you put out, Kevin, the videos that I put out, in certain countries, they're banned in certain countries.
Oh yeah.
You understand? So they don't want them to get this information in their own hometown about their own country, about their own spaces of existence. So we have to realize that there is a diaspora of armies set in place to block these people. And those who do know the information, just by them uttering this information, it could cost them their lives. Mm-hmm. You understand?
And you have to also add to it there are still a lot of people, a lot of places in Africa where they just don't have access to information.
Yes.
Let's just use the example of the fact that over these last several years, Akon has brought 75 million Africans electricity. That means 75 million people in Africa didn't have electricity. So they didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't have internet. So a lot of the information that's of ease of access right now, 75 million people are just now getting electricity.
Facts.
So you can, and according to Akon, he's just the tip of the iceberg on trying to handle that situation. So we got a lot of people there who just don't have access. All they have are the black and white missionaries who are going over there and showing them these pictures of Caesar Borgia and saying, this is your God.
Now,
this is your
salvation.
And that's power.
Right. But it's funny, though, that's about the extent of the travel of these gods. They're missionaries. They don't travel on their own. You never have anybody wake up in China with a hell dream or a heaven dream hearing from Jesus. You never hear somebody in another country who never heard of Jesus or God or Yahweh or any of this crap waking up saying they went to hell and back, saying they saw Jesus. None of that. It only comes from people who were aware of this religion. You see what I'm saying? Like, he only works through people talking. And that sounds more like rumors than anything. That's how rumors work, not how a God works. Like, people will only know about me if you tell them, so get to work. What? Dude, you made the world. What you talking about?
Facts. and it's not like they don't. It's not like human beings don't want God to return, right?
Right.
It's like, yo, if you can do what you say you can do, if you can heal the sick, if you can raise the dead, you don't think we would want you to do that? You don't think we would want you to run up in these hospitals and grab my mama and my grandmother from out of the bed? Ain't nobody banging on religion simply because they want to bang on it. They banging on it because they tried it and it was unsuccessful, and it's been unsuccessful for many, many years. Otherwise, these people would still be here. It doesn't do what you're telling these people that it does. Stop acting. Stop doing all of these different routines, and it's gotten so WWE-ish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's gotten real dramatic like now.
That's exactly what it is. Just a bunch of running around, screaming and yelling.
And there's another part of this this is going to sound controversial, and I'm going to say it in such a way that I can say it.
Say it. Say it with your chest.
Well, I always notice every time we're on, I look at a lot of the comments and I hear a lot of people, like they were talking earlier about, they say that, King James was Masonic, Billy Graham, Masonic. Here's the thing about Masonic that a lot of people really don't understand. And this is just not just Masons, but if you look at other so-called secret organizations, there's power struggles within these organizations. And what I can attest to is that in the Masonic one, Masonic version, and another one that I can attest to that I'm not going to mention, there is a power struggle. There's one side that wants to keep the people enslaved, where there's another side that wants to illuminate the people and let them be mentally free. Yeah. And this battle has been raging for longer than I've been around, for centuries, really. And yes, a lot of the ones that get publicized are the ones that are trying to negatively influence the world and trying to keep them in control. Even Pythagoras, for all the good that he did in mathematics, he negatively wanted only a few people to have knowledge and didn't think that the common person should be allowed that knowledge. And when we talk about Hinduism, there's a similar battle within Hinduism as well. But that kind of, we got to realize that it's not as cut and dry, that there are Masonic people in power from the lowest to the highest who are fighting those also in power to illuminate people, to bring about change. Because a lot of the people who are bringing illumination, they're Masonic. They just don't beat it on their chest, because after the anti-Masonic party did their propaganda movements in America in the early 1700s, well, late 1700s, early 1800s, and then again in the 1900s, it kind of soured people's taste towards it because of the way that they portrayed it, because they wanted to win the presidency of this country. So there's a lot more to it than what, like, the Transformers. There's more than meets the eye.
I 100% agree. This exists in everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, but that power struggle is also keeping people from being able to know what is real and what is not, what happened and what didn't happen, who's doing what, who's not doing. So just want to throw that little part out there. You know,
I think
people keep seeing.
No, I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I don't even have a problem with people not having information or people withholding information. I don't have a problem with that, because we know that there's certain people, when they get information that's powerful, they can use it for bad things, right? We all know that there's good apples, bad apples, right? Well, I do have a problem with lies. You know, I think that, you know, it's okay to know that, okay, you're the worker, you're the employee, not the employer. You don't have to know how this whole operation works for the betterment of the whole office here. But you do have a job that you're supposed to do. Please do your job. I get all of that. You know, there's a structure. But to simply lie to somebody, and it ultimately is causing people to fight against one another, kill one another, you know, do things that are immoral. That's the part that I have a problem with. And to force it upon someone and tell them that they're the immoral ones for not following this doctrine, that's the part that I have a problem with. When clearly the issues that we have in society today is because of it. It's only going to get us what we have right now. Every problem that we have right now is based on the religions that we've practiced, whether it have been Christianity or Islam or any one of the Abrahamic religions, the three major ones. Everything that we have here today is based on those principles. You understand? So how can you argue that? We gave you time. We gave you a lot of time to show us what you can do in your religion, right? So where do we go now?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, Jamal. We've given nothing but time. And when it comes to, you know, them trying to make us feel guilty for not accepting this literature that we know is immoral, we know it's clear. You see, and like you said, it's funny how they'll flip it on us and act like we're the ones with the problems, as if we've never read this literature ourselves. Simple fact is this, man. If your child turned up dead, somebody murdered your child, and the murderer said, "God told me to do it." Now, you don't believe this guy because he killed your daughter, right? Your son. Now they go to his house. They find Bibles everywhere. This man he definitely reads, prays, highlights everything. This dude definitely into it.
Highlights.
Now, because highlights this nigga look like you really read. You know what I mean? I know a lot of Christian people still ain't never read the Bible, but be highlight like a mug.
You gotta have a strong Christian background and say one of those.
But all they be doing is highlighting what the preacher preach on. It don't be their own stuff, though. Like, yeah, man. Orange with just different colors. They be going through it, color coded.
This is what Jesus said, and this is what other people
exactly.
said.
Like they really in it or something. Oh man. But no, that's how it be. So just imagine you go to this man's house and he got all these scriptures and everything pasted all over the walls now, and he really strongly believes that God told him to kill your child, and you still ain't gonna believe him? but you can believe that God told another man to kill his own child, or God told a man to kill his daughter, Jephthah, and actually he burned her alive. This is in the Bible. So if a man killed your child today and said, God told me to do it, what would you say to that? Are you going to say, well, God don't work like that no more? He don't tell people to kill people no more. You know, that was just back then. Really? You see my point? And we're immoral for not believing this crap. It's like this God's supposed to be so holy, but he comes to you and tell you to kill your child. And you're just supposed to say, okay. You see what I'm saying? And it's like they show you these stories of these men and women bowing down and accepting this stuff uncritically, so you will accept it uncritically. See, imagine if they had wrote in there Abraham saying, wait a second, you sure you God? A loving God wouldn't tell me to kill my son, right? If they wrote Abraham responding in that way, I guarantee you we would probably respond in that way to more things. But we don't get to see these guys offer conflict back to some of the things that Jesus offers. And then immediately after that, to be honest with you, the angel appears to him and says, stop. Now I know you're faithful. Now this God is supposed to be all-knowing. Why is the angel just now knowing that Abraham's faithful? Just imagine that. Imagine being Isaac, okay, and you got all this wood and stuff, and all of a sudden, what a lamb? Oh, you the lamb? Like, Daddy, you about to kill? Just imagine the trauma that would come from that. You feel me? Now, and again, now I know you're faithful. We got to do better than that.
And you know, that's one of the reasons why this none of the stories in these books are written at the time that any of these things supposedly ever happened.
Absolutely.
Right? It's always written, and the people of this era are reading something that happened a long time ago, because you know that if it was written and it was happening at your time, you would not have condoned any of these things. Like, you would not have condoned, and it skips my mind as to where it is, where it says that I will raise up evil. It's God saying, I'm going to raise up evil in your house, and I'm going to allow your enemies to come in and rape your daughters in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
You know that can't be done in your presence at your time frame. You would not, you'd be like, oh, no, it's not going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So it has to be written at a time where people can say, well, that was back then. And that's how people treat it today. Like, well, that was back then.
I'm going to read it for you, Lorenzo. I'm going to read it for you real quick, because this is dope. 2 Samuel 12 and 11. This is scripture Lorenzo talking about. God, let me read the King James Version, because that's what everybody wants. Thus saith the Lord. And this is all caps, so we can understand. This is God talking, Yahweh talking. Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and I will give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. Now, just imagine this is God telling you that your wives are going to be raped by your own neighbor. Just imagine that. Right. Okay, go ahead. Exactly. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
Now, if something like that was trying to go down in today's world, where God came down and told the people at New Salem Baptist United Methodist Episcopal Catholic Love
Carry the one. Carry the one enemy's eye.
Right. That your neighbor, the Muslims over here at this holy mosque of whomever, is going to come over and they're going to rape your wives in front of your sons, and you're going to watch them. And I've decreed this, so you got to let that happen. No one would accept that. Not one Christian person would accept that. And if you flip that to the Muslims reading the same thing, saying the same thing, they're not going to accept that either. You know, so if anything, they're going to stone the wives after they get raped, if that were to happen.
Absolutely.
So it's written so out of time so that people can accept it. And because it's out of time and people can make their excuses of we're under dispensation or we're under grace, or, you know, Jesus didn't say it, and that was for then, even though they say the book and the writing is for all times. And then you have mentioned about, you know, the with Abraham and he testing Abraham, right? That's the idea. Abraham was tested, but God being omniscient should have known, but he's being tested. But then later in the New Testament it says, fathers, don't tempt your children.
Absolutely. That's what it says.
Wasn't Abraham the child of God, and God was tempting the child? So that's God going against his own self.
Right.
And of course, I know I'm probably taking that out of context, but it's the same thing though. You know, it's that's the mentality that they'll take to it, is that it's not happening now, that we don't do that now. Really, it's because our society is not like that now. And we're going to make this book conform to our society.
It's exactly what it is, Lorenzo.
Conform different. You go to Africa, it's conformed different. Mm-hmm. You go to other places, their culture has conformed these books to fit them more so than them fitting the book.
That was their law, and that's what I try to tell people. Like, and that's your law. Your Bible is your law. That's what they enforced. You see, like we got these law books and now and stuff to read. Back then, they enforced this stuff and forced it on the people. And like Lorenzo said, it backed and okayed their culture. This stuff was built to have people accept their culture. You see what I'm saying? Like, and no other to think that an all-knowing God would have you sacrifice stuff just for him to forgive you and then call himself all love. And it's just ludicrous to think that a God once thought that way. Not said, I'm gonna have you stone women and then change it later. I mean, to think that he once thought that was cool. And to know everything, to say, I'm gonna say it's cool now, but then I'm gonna realize that it's a little overboard, and then I'm gonna retract that with my son and say, if you have no sin, cast the first stone, and everybody will like me and forget I ever said anything. Like, to think that a God would say that is just ridiculous.
How is a perfect God so wishy-washy?
Like, it's so wishy-washy, like, come on.
Yeah.
And then, how is a perfect God in need of anything? Why would God need your praise or need you to show sacrifice? He shouldn't need anything from you. And if that's your way of, and of course they're going to say that, well, that's how we show it to God so that we have proof. But if he knows everything, omniscient, doesn't need any proof. Doesn't need you to prove it. You should just do it.
We shouldn't need you to kill anybody. Take your swords and stab your family members until 3,000 of y'all dead because I'm mad because y'all worship the golden calf. Really?
And you worship the golden calf because you was wondering, dang, what happened to dude been up in the hills for a long time and he ain't came back. So we need to do something.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Word.
It's funny, man. I was telling Josh the other day, if you really think about this, when God supposedly called Moses up Mount Sinai, God had Moses up Mount Sinai for what? 40 days, right? 30, 40 days. Yeah. Now, God who knows everything, the biblical God, he knew exactly how long it would take before the Israelites got impatient and began to build a golden calf. Wouldn't he know that?
Yes.
You would know.
Now, why do you need Moses to be up on Mount Sinai for that many days? Like, that's a long time to write 10 commandments. You made the world in 7 days, dude. It take you. I mean, I guess with all due respect, nobody taught the biblical God to write. So I imagine that had to be hard to make up letters and everything too. You feel me? Let's get a man a break. But but dang, like spelling must be real hard for God. It took that dude 40 days to write 10 commandments. That Moses was just gonna break. Now let's just talk about the crazy stuff because I'm gonna hit play on this video, but. Moses up there for 40 days. Now, God knew that this happened. God knew that these Israelites were going to worship a golden calf. And he was going to kill 3,000 of them for doing it, right? Or tell them to kill each other until it happened. But here's the more messed up thing. God took Moses up there for 40 days, knowing Moses was going to break him as soon as he made him. Now, tell me that's not crazy. I'm going to have you right.
He did the 40 joints in the box just to have him broke.
Moses broke.
And he knew that was going to happen.
He know everything. You see what I'm saying? Like it almost seems like he called Moses up there just to make these daggum Israelites get impatient and worship a golden calf. It's like he set it up almost. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's like he got a bloodlust.
Dude,
I mean,
yes, what it looked like.
He did, because he knew from the beginning, right, the creation. So the whole thing is a setup.
The whole thing is a setup.
Yeah, you can't get mad at nothing because he did the whole thing. Like, yeah, yo, even this conversation. Like,
right. God up in like first commandment, I want you to write this. And he know Moses gonna break them. That's what's funny though. Like this dude gonna break them commandments. And my thing is this, God could have been like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and give you this last one real quick. We've been up here 39 days. And if we stay up here another day, they're gonna start worshiping false gods and we're gonna have to kill them. So let's just go ahead and wrap this up. No, he didn't do that. You know your people worshiping false gods, right? What?
No.
That's how you
tells
roll.
the overall motive of this
Thank
guy,
you, Claudia.
whatever he's trying to do.
Yeah, it should tell you something. And it's
Awesome.
like, you should ask yourself, can you trust a God like this? Now, he just rescued you from Egypt and destroyed, he murdered all the firstborns, not just of kings, but of prisoners and everything. He murdered the firstborns of everyone that was not Israelites. And the only reason he didn't murder the Israelites is because they put blood of goats and lambs over their doors. Now, God is supposed to know everything, but he needs you to put blood over. You know how many lambs they had to kill? Do you know how many sheep died that day? That's the sheep holocaust, and they ain't even got their reparations. You see what I'm saying? Now look. Hey, dude, that was a bad day.
That was so corny.
Larissa, that was good. You know that was good.
Yeah, you stupid, man.
I'm ashamed to be associated with you.
Oh man. All right, so check this out. Let me play this video real quick. We're gonna go into this, okay? All right, Josh, you ready?
Crazy.
You know it's true, Jamal. That was a bad day, man.
It was a bad day. A lot of bloodshed.
A lot of bloodshed, man. And again, like I said, just to kill them later don't make sense. We ready, Josh? Is this it?
Yeah, this is the religion history video.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So, guys, as you can see here, it's color coded, and let me see. I don't know why it's doing that. It's kind of.
I was moving it out the way for you.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right, cool. So as you can see, it's color coded. Let me start it over. So first, we're looking at Hinduism. Now, Lorenzo, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about this right here. This is right here is Hinduism, of course. Hinduism takes root near the Indus River Valley, and of course, Hinduism is where you get your Krishna and all that, right, Lorenzo?
Right.
So go
ahead.
I was saying that the similarities between Jesus and Krishna, even though Jesus is not, we're talking from a standpoint of, let's just say Jesus existed, right? Or Jesus exists now, or was said to exist, of course. He wouldn't have existed until 3,000 years after this moment, guys. So the sheer fact that Krishna's story and allegory is so on point with Jesus by way of walking, of dying and rising again 3 days later, being a savior, coming back, supposed to be coming back again and freeing his people again in the future. This is the belief that Hindus have towards Krishna. All right, now this is long before Jesus, right, Lorenzo?
Yeah, this is like 3,000 plus years before Jesus. This is like the oldest documented religion that's out there. And the thing about it is that it has so many similarities to what became Christianity and even some aspects of Judaism, because in Hinduism, you have a top level God, right? And that top level God creates everything. And then from that top level God is broken into three different aspects. So you get your it's not exactly the same as a Trinity, but you get your Trinitarian situation, because you get you get your three primary gods from Brahma, and God Rama, Vishnu, and I forgot the other name. And those three are your first three. But then as other teachings come up, you have the birth of Krishna, which goes through this immaculate conception and is born and has 12 disciples and, perform all these miracles. And through Krishna is your way of getting yourself into their version of heaven. So, and then Krishna has like, the reason why they say Krishnas keep coming, there are three different, I think they're on their 13th iteration of Krishna, that Krishna keeps coming back.
Yeah, he's
so
at 13th.
Your God coming back to save. And that last one, when the last one comes back, that last one is supposed to set up a kingdom on earth, a holy kingdom on earth.
Does this sound familiar, guys?
And then after they rule from this holy city, then everybody is kind of like into this heavenly realm. So that's the idea of Krishna, which, was there long before Christianity and Judaism. And if you look at the map, it is not a far distance from Israel, from where there is Israel in that whole area, to India. And there was trading going on then. We also know that the people from the Indus Valley were to Egypt, and they were learning and they was trading with the people of Egypt. And we know that they sailed as well around, around through the Saudi Arabia Peninsula to get into to Egypt and back into the Indus Valley long before Europeans start going to India. But they have, all those things are the same. That they come before Judaism and Christianity, and they had their own flood stories that came before
Exactly.
Judaism.
The miracles were similar and all.
And
Someone,
they had their own war in heaven
absolutely.
before the Hinduism and before Judaism and Buddhism, which is similar to what you had with the Sumerian story, with the wars in heaven and all those sorts of things. Oh, and in the creation of the world, there was a battle between the primary God and a serpent.
Look at there. So, and here's the thing. Now, I want to say this right here real quick, Lorenzo. Alton Johnson had commented, but Krishna never did any of those things. What I would say to you, Alton, is take yourself to India and tell them that. Okay? Because these people really believe that. Just as much as you believe that Jesus did those things for you. That instead of shouting out or typing in that Krishna never did any of these things, what you should really be asking yourself is, why did they have the same story 3,000 years before Krishna? And why would your God choose to copy them? Like, if Jesus existed, your God is a plagiarist. And that's a fact. He stole the same stories that was on Egyptian walls and that other people were worshiping long before Jesus ever would have existed anyway. So if Jesus did exist, Yahweh is a plagiarist. That's fact.
Word for word.
And let's add one part to that. If Jesus would have existed, Mary and Joseph and all of them were Essenes. And in the town where the Essenes, in the area where the Essenes were, was a Roman rock quarry. It was a place that the Romans quarried rocks. And in that Essene area, you had people from India who were also in that area with the Romans working as stonemasons to quarry rock for the Romans. So if Mary and Joseph were actual beings that existed and they was Essenes in that area, they would have known the Hindu and the Buddhist story. So it's something that was very evident in that area to be a known thing.
Absolutely.
And you're right. He should ask, why is it a copy?
Just to note, all of these religions that you see up top here, every single one of them derived out of Africa, out of Kemet, out of ancient Egypt, what they call ancient Egypt. And the way that it happened, if you look on the map here, and I'm glad you got that up, if you look at the Horn of Africa, you'll see what is the Suez Canal, that little canal that's right, that separates the Middle East kind of from what they call Africa, right? So this was a man-made irrigation system that was created. If we didn't have that canal, everybody that was in India, for them to trade goods with people in Europe, vice versa, they would have to sail all the way around Africa. That means you're facing bandits. It's not going to happen. You're not going to make it around. It was a dangerous thing. Once they actually made the Suez Canal, it allowed people to come from Europe. It allowed people to go back and forth. So as you see, Kemet is right there on that coast. So this is how how they adapted these different religions and created these different religions out of Kemetic principles. Because in order for you to even trade with anybody for survival, it was a means for everybody to survive. You had to deal with Kemet. You could not go anywhere else. Otherwise, you would have to go all the way around Africa to get to Europe, and that was not going to happen. So that's how, if you want to know how it happened, that's how that happened. Because of trade and commerce, the different cultures started dealing with one another, relations with one another, trading customs, all that type of stuff happened. And it happened because they all met at Kemet. Kemet was like Times Square in New York.
And the way Christianity was accepted even after that was a lot of the same reasons, guys. People were accepting Christianity so they could trade with them. Now, this is something Jamar and Lorenzo that Alton put up in response to what I said. He said, but Hindus, I know Indians or Hindus who have converted to Christianity. That was his response.
I know black folks who not converted to Hinduism and Buddhism.
Right, like you should never make conversion mean that it's true. Like that's silly because the fastest growing religion is Islam. Like you should stop with that. Please stop. Like please stop.
In 50 years, Islam will, the number of people who are Islamic will be higher than the number of people who are Christian.
Like it's growing tremendously faster.
So it'll be the largest religion in 2050.
Right.
So what he's saying makes absolutely no sense. And because I've traveled more than, I'm going to go ahead and say, I usually don't say things like this, but since I know I've traveled around this planet more than he has, I have met people of every different religion of every different nationality and color.
Mhm.
I've met black people who are Christian, who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are Buddhist, who are Zoroastrian. I've met black atheists. I met every black person with a belief. So conversion means nothing unless you're isolated in a small little looking glass of a country, and that's all you can see is what's here. So you need to get out some more. You need to get out some more.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
world.
Yeah.
You know, go view something.
Mm-hmm. So this, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get through this little video. It's we're gonna be pausing it and stuff, but I just want to get through it so we can get this video out the way and get my homies back on the screen. So I'm gonna hit play real quick. So again, I'm gonna pause it in certain spots, so we're gonna talk about some of what you guys may not see. So here we go. Time's still going on, and you seeing Hinduism spreading throughout India, right? So you hear Abraham is supposedly born.
And you know what's keeping it from spreading across over into that area is it was the desert.
Right.
The desert was stopping that Hindu from going over there.
So you guys see this, the reason that we're not getting Hinduism moving further over to the left is just because the desert, there wasn't any population out there. No need to carry it out there.
Anybody been to Afghanistan tell you, you don't want to go across mountains, deserts. Ooh.
So guys, now you get Buddhism. Now notice Buddhism is before Christianity as well. So now you look at this, look at the year that you're in at the bottom of the screen. Now you're getting on into some Judaism. Now, let me add this. Jesus is supposedly crucified. Now, mind you, while this supposedly happened, you've seen it popped up. You don't get any writings of Jesus or any character that was alongside of him until years later, mind you. All right, so let me just say that. Let me know, guys, if y'all want to say something. Let me pause it.
But I love this video because, like, when the Buddhism started, you know, Buddha was originally a Hindu, and then he was believing that there was a prophecy that said that if he leaves, that his family's kingdom would be over. He was like house arrest for a long time, but when he wanted to see more of life, he left. Right, because he saw, he supposedly saw a dead man and a sick man and somebody else, but then the Hindu people absorbed Siddhartha and made him into a deity. When before in the Buddhists he was taught as just a teacher, but then he got made into a deity, which is what a lot of these religions would do: is take somebody who was a teacher. Even if Jesus did this, he would have just been a teacher that got made into a deity later, and that's one of the things that keep happening. And the spread of Islam was a military machine. And unlike Jesus, when Muhammad took over, when Muhammad came out, he was a military leader and political leader, right? Which, if you actually read the Jewish version of what a Messiah is supposed to be, Muhammad was more of a Messiah than Jesus, because Jesus didn't set up a kingdom on earth that freed the people, whereas Muhammad began a kingdom that did take the Arab nation, who were paganistic, as Christians would call them, but went and conformed them under one religion. And that's what allowed them to spread all throughout North Africa and, the Iberian Peninsula in Europe, was the fact that they were militarized, in much the same way that a Jewish Messiah was supposed to come as a military general, a military leader.
Wow, there you have it. And guys, back then you got to understand, like Lorenzo just said, teachers were prevalent back then. To be a rabbi would be like being a freaking NFL quarterback. You see what I'm saying? Whenever colonization and this stuff was like prevalent. What were you gonna say, Lorenzo?
Well, you're right. I mean, it was like that, and to be a rabbi, you had to have a wife. So I wonder what Jesus was, for one.
Exactly.
But now, also on the map, what I like. and this is where a lot of people grab onto, that there's a little bit of Christianity that was alive down there in the Ethiopian area near the Horn of Africa. And this is where a lot of these people will say that, oh, well, this is why Christianity was in Africa before the colonizers came, right? But you have to recognize it was just in that one small part of Africa that you had some level of Christianity that was being taught there. And a lot of people will say that, well, those were from the eunuch, the Ethiopian eunuch, that, which I forgot which disciple supposedly ran up. I think Peter ran up to him and he had a scripture of Isaiah. But that was just one small pocket. So when we get into our conversation about colonization, I want people to remember it was just that one small pocket before European colonization began that had any amount of Christianity. Before that, all that area of Africa was ancestry worship, was their own individual spiritualisms, and not anybody else's, not any of these others, but what they had long beforehand, right? So don't fall for the idea when they say, well, it was already in Africa. No, it wasn't really. It wasn't in sub-Saharan Africa like they try to proclaim that it was.
Absolutely. And I like to try to throw this out there too for the people who be like, well, it started in Africa, it didn't start in Africa, whatever. My whole thing is this, guys. What makes Africa so important for making a religion real? Because it started there. Okay, there are religions that started in Africa that don't make them real. Understand, it started on Earth. Every religion started on Earth is false. Doesn't matter what continent it was started on, whether it floats or if it's really stuck on the ground. It doesn't matter. All of them are false, and it's irrelevant on whether it's called Africa or Kubalan. You can call it whatever you want to. Religion is fake, bruh. just like Jamal keep on saying. Let me hit play again. Thank you very much, Naomi. So we see Islam continuing to rise.
Yeah, and somebody asked that, didn't Muslim enslave Africans and force them to convert? Yeah.
Absolutely. They were first. They were first. 1,500 years.
Every religion at some point forced people to convert.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, Islam enslaved Africans, converted them to Islam. Then the enslaved converted Islamic believers, enslaved and converted other Africans, like straight up. It's funny how you can convert somebody by beating them into believing in something, and they'll go out and do that same thing to somebody else. We're accepting it, hearing about how it was done. It wasn't actually beaten into us. If it was beaten into us and we were still beating it into our children, that'd be a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother level of like mental illness. You know what I mean?
And then the other way that the Islam was forced into people's lives was if they didn't do it that way. Well, what people realize, so you're in a town, these people are Muslim. Well, they're getting tax breaks because they're not paying taxes, but you're not Muslim, so you have to pay tax.
Absolutely.
They're getting loans without having to pay any interest. You know, they called it rental back then, but they're getting loans without having to pay pay interest on the loans. They're getting preferential treatment. So of course, your next thing is to say, I want some of that preferential treatment as well. I want to feed my family. You know, if you know, Jamar, if you a man, you can't feed your family well, but you know you convert over to this Islam and you're going to be able to feed your family better. After a while, when you ain't getting no nookie from your wife, you're going to convert. Because you got
right. Because at the end of the day, you don't believe in it no way, so you figure what harm can it do? If all it's going to do is help my family situation better, hey, why not?
That's a fact, and that's how like 90-some% of people who join any religion end up joining is because you're really joining a different lifestyle that's going to change you. You know, you're going to be able to get your sandwiches and your coats and your canned foods during the damn holidays. A lot of people end up signing. Like I remember getting ready and getting prepared for the holidays and going out on the streets and finding people that's homeless, more or less anything that needed something, and providing them some food and say, here, you got this food because Jesus loves you. Like I remember doing that, you know what I'm saying? So that's how they get a lot of people. They get the people that's down and ill-trodden. They don't get nobody that's successful to cross over. They like, nah, I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing that got me here. Ain't no way in hell I'm gonna convert to that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And be out here broke. Like that ain't happening. So when you give somebody a survival structure, you know what I'm saying, by all means they'll switch over and do that. And just to go over what you was talking about, how when some people say that Christianity started in South Africa and things of that nature, or in the Nile Valley, that's a damn lie. Because just to look at when you deal with the structure of the word Jesus, that letter J don't even still exist in the Hebrew language. So we wasn't even using that. You had to deal with the Greek culture before we could even get that. You know what I'm saying? And that had to be printed up in books. So that means the Europeans had to have conquered by them before we could even realize what that religion was all about. So this is why basic history is key. You got to know the timeline, the chronological timeline of what was going on before you could try and say that something started in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't get conquered, and it didn't conquer Africa the way it did as we see here until certain rulers came into play, and Ptolemy Soter and things of that nature. The whole Ptolemy regime took over.
Absolutely. That was powerful, Jamal. All right.
Age of Discovery.
Now, again, Age of Discovery, guys, that's just another word for colonization. This ain't my video. I would have put colonization. So,
colonizer.
Age of Discovery, right? Now, notice every place they discover, even though it already has people on it, they become Christian, right? But they don't become Christian until they discover their land.
That's a fact.
Exactly. So where is this all-powerful God that should have converted these people? I mean, when the Europeans came over there, they should have came over and there was already, Christians. So it should have been like, hey, brother, how you doing? We already know about Yeshua, or whatever you want to call him. We already know. So we should be good.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, they had to establish it. They had to create it out of something. And, I got to tell you, one of the things that I was thinking about while we was getting ready for this.
Thanks, Josh. You can check
that. I wondered, India was colonized by Europeans as well, right? But they was able to maintain pretty much the majority of the people in India are still Hindu or Buddhist, right? So I was like cracking my brain as to what's the difference? When you look at all this land that you see that the Christians colonized, America, South America, all that kind of stuff, right? When I looked at India and I looked at China, because when the Europeans went there, there is a very distinct difference. That difference, in my opinion, that difference is that when the Hindu and the Buddhists committed themselves to their worship, they built buildings. They have long-standing construction that shows who the Hindu gods are, that shows Buddha. They had all their construction that was there and was never torn down.
Right.
When I look at the people of the Americas and the people of those the islands and the Aboriginal and sub-Saharan Africa, these were people who did not need buildings and they lived off the land because the land provided all that they need. So we know that European colonization, one of the reasons why it began is because Europe became overpopulated to feed its people. So necessity and the mother of all inventions, they had to go out. They had to leave. People in Africa didn't have to go nowhere. They had all they needed with that the land provided.
Absolutely.
So because they didn't need to leave, need to build these massive monuments, we don't have the history. We don't have a lot of their history. We don't have a lot of their information because they didn't build these things. Whereas the people in the Indus Valley, they had to build their monuments and build their houses. They had a necessity to construct. And because of that, they still have they have more of their history. The Chinese built and constructed, so they have more of their history. And I don't know, Jamar, if you can speak on that aspect of colonizing people and getting their brainwashed, because you're not destroying the temples of, just like you go to Europe, you see the temples, the Greek temples are still there because they were constructed. The temples in India are still there, right, because they were constructed. But we look at Africa and we don't see that because they didn't, and it's not because they didn't have a knowledge base, they just didn't have a need for it.
Right.
And Egypt had to construct because the Nile Valley had to provide and they had to make it work. But if you living in southern Central Africa, you just go foraging and you good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they were living off of that wave, and when the Ptolemies conquered, they were still worshiping the deities. They were still practicing African spirituality, I should say. It wasn't religion. It was more of a lifestyle that everybody just ran with. It was already, it went without saying. So the Sosairs, they weren't trying to have their people, even though that they were white people and ruling over black people, they weren't trying to have them worshiping the black Asar. You know, they were worshiping literally the statues of Asar at that moment in time after being oppressed and things of that nature. So they actually went into Kemet and started pulling out the scholars, pulling out all of the teachers and bringing them into the Alexandria libraries, taking all the scrolls and things of that nature. And they were employed to be in Alexandria and to have that knowledge there. And they made sure all the temples that had knowledge and scrolls were raided. And they took all of that in Alexandria library. And then they burned that damn thing down. You know, understand what I'm saying? To make sure that the indoctrination that they were putting on the people stayed and it was stuck, and they had no way of getting the knowledge of the true knowledge, the true sacred sciences, and the true African spirituality. No way of learning it. It only took that one incident to totally isolate Africa from what their roots were, from their stability. So now they're introducing this new deity, and they have some of this knowledge. Don't get it twisted. They didn't just burn all the knowledge away because they needed the foundations to build something, to build what they have today, their civilization. So all they did was put a white face on it and serve it back to you. That's all they did, and they made you purchase it at that. So it was really, really constructed very, very well, the way that they did it. And we have to understand this history. This is basic history. It's not even the hidden knowledge anymore. It's common knowledge that you can find out and you can research. And there's many, many books that you guys can find on this information on how it was actually done. And the faces that you see, we talk about Caesar Borgia and things of that nature. That came later. The first stages was the Ptolemies and how he wanted to avenge, his father's his father's death, because his father wanted to do originally this work. Mm-hmm. So he made the face of Serapis, which is the face of Jesus that we see now. You understand? And later changed into Caesar Borgia and things of that nature, when Leonardo da Vinci and all of them came into play. But it's an inception. It's an original inception of what we know now of this Jesus that was originally an anthropomorphized being of Heru from Kemet. They changed that to Ptolemy Soter during the 25th dynasty.
And outside. Okay, my bad.
Let me add to what Jamal was just saying. Mm-hmm. It just because you was talking about timelines a little bit earlier, right? So follow this timeline for just a second. Earlier, I said that Pythagoras, he had went to Egypt, to the schools of Akhenaten, and he had went to other areas of the world as well to learn, right? He brought all that knowledge, went back to Croton in Greece, and started his own Pythagorean schools.
Yeah.
Those Pythagoras believed that knowledge was only for the upper crust, right? Yes. The upper crust people, that the average person shouldn't get it.
Kemet too, but go ahead.
Right. But he took that knowledge he had learned, started his mystery school. Out of his mystery school, when you follow the line, you will get to Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, which we know, I believe, is Aristotle was a tutor to Alexander the Great.
Yes.
For which we know that one of Alexander the Great's generals was Ptolemy. That same line of thinking follows that timeline, and now you get the Ptolemies getting that information, because they would check you to see if you had any books that they didn't have.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to keep all the knowledge for themselves. And if you tried to hide a book, they would murder you. Right?
Shakedown.
So that same line of thinking of we have to have this information just for ourselves, just for the upper crust. It flows through that. And that's a timeline that people don't think about. So when you think about the Jesus character, I want you to think about how Vespasian knew that to control the people, you had to control the religious story. When you go from Vespasian to Titus and on up the line, you get to Constantine.
It was a format. It was a straight format, like a template on how to build a civilization.
Yeah,
essentially.
I saw a video where this Christian was talking about, when you hear some of these conscious woke people start talking about Ptolemy, Council of Nicaea, and What's the one you just said, Jamal? You just mentioned another name, Constantine. Yeah, he was like, when you hear them say those names, just ignore them because they don't know what they're talking about. That was his suggestion. Like, he didn't give no reference to why they don't know what they're talking about. No, he just if they say something about Constantine, he just ignore them. Like, really, dude, that's what you doing? You just
that
run off.
should give you a red flag right there.
It should give you a red flag right there, right?
Yeah.
You know, not to go off subject, but I heard some fool this morning, and I'm gonna call him a fool. And he's a fool, and I know that's the worst thing you can call a person because
according to the Bible, yeah.
Exactly. He's a Christian minister. And I say that because his whole thing was like, we got receipts. We got receipts.
I saw that. Somebody shared that on my group page.
Is that how I got that message this morning?
That's how you got it. Dude, this dude is showing books, trying to get people to give a thumbs up on the books that he have, as if the books that he has prove that what he believes in is real. So he like, look at that, I got receipts. Like, no, you don't.
Right.
Talking about these church fathers, he talking about Tacitus and Tertullian and all of these people, and I'm like, but I noticed he skipped Josephus. I'm like, okay, because you know that most of this stuff that these so-called church fathers wrote about originated with Josephus, who was writing for the Flavians. And when you read Josephus, you see that Josephus talked about 4 or 5 different Jesus characters. Yeah. And if you took all 4 or 5 of those Jesus characters of Josephus, you get the one version, which the Philos and the Herods were able to put together. You get the one version of the Jesus character. And I was just sitting there like, now I know who put that mess on my timeline. But
somebody said we was all annoyed. Claudia said we was all annoyed when that post hit the group page.
But people won't go back though. People were like, that's good and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, y'all not going back and trying to understand where this information is coming from. And he talking about we got original. He pointing to a book that got a copyright of like probably this year or a couple of years ago, saying these are original documents. Right?
It's crazy.
Everybody thinks about that. No, these are copies of copies of copies and translations of translations, which all come from people who were not there, who didn't know to do.
Bro, it's crazy because even if we could go back in time, say what?
Huh?
I said, even if we could go back in time and talk to these dudes personally, that's still not a receipt. These guys cannot prove what they wrote down. If I wrote down that I saw Jesus face to face in some dream and all these other crazy things happen, how can I prove what I just wrote? You're telling me that you trust these men that you never met before. Like, that's stupid to me. You don't even know what they look like, nothing about their family life, no nothing. And you trust what they're saying about God? Like a God? Like, you crazy, bro.
You know, I had somebody challenge me in my comments on one of my videos about this like a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, well, but you talking about all this hermetic stuff, right? You talking about all these laws from the Emerald Tablets, and one of the things I had to tell myself, here's the difference: you can test the Emerald Tablets, you can test those laws. See, I can't test did you get a miracle healing. I can't test that something miraculous happened, but what I can test is the law of cause and effect. Mm. If I keep going and researching it, I can find the effect for everything that you call, I can find the cause for everything that you call a miracle. Right. You know, when you say it was a miracle healing, no, it wasn't a miracle healing. They ate something or they was given something that increased their white blood cell count that allowed them to fight off the virus. Science. It was not a miracle. It was science. Right. When the check just came in the mail at the right time, it's because you overpaid your taxes on your house. Your mortgage company overpaid your taxes on your house. And so it's at the end of the year and they have to send you that check. So it wasn't a miracle check. You just weren't making sure you was taking care of your finances and you found yourself in a bad situation. So now it's a miracle check. If you were taking care of your financial situation, it would have been oh yeah, they owe me that.
And here's the simple facts, Lorenzo. How come the people that's dying of starvation who got to walk 3 and 4, 6, 10 miles every morning to get water out of a polluted creek, how come they don't get a check in the mail? Right? Mm-hmm. How come they never get a blessing in the mail? How come they can't give $1 and get it back pressed down, shaking together and running over? You know why? The crap ain't real. I promise you. To think that God will be over here blessing all these people and then not listening to these is stupid. Say what?
And the missionary ain't went there to dig them a well.
Exactly.
It's all over.
That's what I was me. The last resort that they run to is that if you don't believe, then you're gonna go to hell. If you do believe, then you get to go to heaven, right? And then I asked them, I said, so what's good about going to heaven? Tell me about heaven. They say it's a land that's paved with gold, pearly gates, and our Father has many mansions. You'll have riches, everything. Really? But I thought I was a spirit. What the hell I need with a mansion if I'm a
Right.
spirit? What the hell I
And what-
need a crib for?
Why would you want to walk on gold? Like,
I'm a spirit. I don't even have a body. Why do I even need a
Right?
gold
Would you have
chain?
feet to walk on gold?
yeah, like it's stupid, bro.
And why do you need riches? I mean, do
Right?
they have
Like, yeah, like Jamal said, why would you want a mansion, riches, any of that?
Which
You gotta
do I
buy
have a
stuff.
safety deposit box for the bank as well? Like which bank? Where we putting our bread at?
Dude, look, I said this the other day. I said this the other day with Josh. The Bible speaks about the gates of heaven being pearls, right? Made from pearl, right? Pearls are made when bacteria gets inside of a clam's mouth. It releases a chemical that gets hard that turns into pearl. So we're supposed to believe that God got an assembly line where they just open the mouths of pearls and clams and take and they
you know,
just
we
build.
can move
Like, why would we have pearly gates? Like, really?
and,
Like,
and
come
you know, I
on,
was
like,
talking.
heaven ain't
I was
even all
talking
that.
to. I was asking a Muslim. I was talking to this Muslim brother, and I was like, "Why do you need 72 virgins in heaven? Why? What is your purpose? Are you up
Exactly.
in heaven? You got a gangbang going on in heaven? Why do you
Exactly.
need 72 virgins? That's only something that a man would think is a great
Word.
thing. How do the 72 virgins feel about that? Is there heaven at the fact that
Exactly.
I'm number 72 and of 70? I'm number 70 of 72, and I gotta wait for him to get around to me.
Mhm.
I mean, that's not her heaven. That sounds like hell to that woman.
And if there's
So it
and if
sounds
there's
like a
70,
male egocentric heaven.
And how about the man having to go through, don't touch me, no, I'm not ready, I'm ready, no, I'm not ready, 72 times?
And
Girl,
then
do
you
you
know-
want to do this or what?
and then
And
after
you know
smash,
when women live together, you know what happens. They all get on the same schedule.
and then
I
what
don't want
happens
72
after you
times.
smash? After you smash the 72 virgins, is they still in heaven? Like, what's going on? Because you know it's only 72 of them.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people going to heaven. You understand? So let's
And
go,
listen,
man.
bro,
How was
it's
this
heaven.
discussion?
Look, it's heaven. So they probably just go back to being virgins again right after you have sex.
Go back to Earth.
Just zoop, and then, it's gonna be okay because it's still a virgin, right?
Suck right up, baby. We don't,
And look,
we don't
just
need no yoni. We
look,
don't need no yoni balls or nothing. It snap right back.
right, and just cause the wound heal up. That would mean that they never had sex, even though they literally did in the past, because that's just how these gods work. you see what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's foul, yo. It's foul. Like, and nobody ever even thinks about these type or ask these type of questions. It's just like they just run with it, man. We're gonna go to heaven. That's it. And but
Facts,
you know what?
man.
It had its time. You know what I'm saying? In all fairness, religion had its time. It ran its course. It kept a lot of people out of trouble that would have been in serious trouble, of course. And it's just the times have changed, and we understand why it was created, what it was meant for. You understand? And once our technology caught up to our morale status, it's time to start doing away with that and realizing what it was really created for at the end of the day, and just start living in it every day. You know what I mean? I think that's the solution, to all of this mess that we created as human beings, that there's an overall message here. And that's that its inception was probably meant with good intentions and then corrupted at first. You know what I mean? I would like to think that that it got into the wrong hands, and somebody saw how these people were so connected to this type of energy, to this formality, and wanted to seize power and control over it. So but it's time for us to get back to the source. Get back to our spiritual connection with one another, and that's it.
And at the end of the day, we need to start seeing through this stuff. When you live your whole life thinking, I'm going to go to a place that's paved with gold, got pearl gates to keep people out of it. If you can't even get there, why would it even have gates, guys? Like, just think about it. All right, you're going to have mansions now. People starving on earth today, but your spirit's going to have a mansion in heaven. gold is pliable. If you walk on it, it'll be really flat sooner or later. Like gold is not gonna hold up. It's not something that can be used for something like that. And so it's like if you guys don't start reasoning and thinking about this stuff, because again, what's a mansion when you gotta worship somebody every day, all day? Like really, what's a mansion? You gotta worship this dude and tell him how amazing he is all day long. That right there is like a hell. Like why would a person need to hear that? That you're that narcissistic. And then if you go to Muslim hell, if you're a guy, you're going to be asking to put the tip in 72 times. Is that really what you want? Is that really what you want? You're going to be begging to put the tip in 72 times. Man, that's a lot of times, dude. That's a lot of times. Like high school all over again. Look, Jamal and they don't even want to laugh at that joke.
I wouldn't even want that, bro.
No. Young, immature, you think that's great, but when you get older, you realize, I need to go. Heaven gonna have to have some pillows and some beds. So I can sleep. Not all that.
You're gonna need some serious herbs, man.
Oh man,
that's a fact.
But you know, I like what Jamar had said earlier. I think like that's why I've seen a lot of people. Not that they're becoming Taoists, but they're understanding the wisdom of the Tao, because it's just about being pure in yourself and just kind of understanding that, hey, look, we're all on this journey of self-discovery. And that our journey is to discover ourselves and just to kind of flow into the natural way of things. And when you do that, you can't kill the next guy because you know you don't have a right to do so. You can't steal from the next person because you know you don't have a right to do so. You know, so you don't need a book to tell you those things, which is one of the things I love about the Tao, because the Tao never tells you, it doesn't give you 10 commandments.
Right.
Because it's saying that basically, if you just think correctly, think naturally, you don't need laws and rules to tell you how to be a good person. It's just natural for you to do it, you know? And that's one of the things that Siddhartha realized before they made him a deity and called him, you know, the Buddha, is that, look, all you got to do is just flow naturally and you will fit and you will be able to live and you'll start to think like God thinks. As Einstein actually said that his whole goal in life is to think like God thinks, that he wants to think that way. You know, so he studied science to try to understand how to think like God thinks.
Wouldn't that make more sense, right? If God created the world, wouldn't you study its creation to learn how the person who created it thinks? We look at an artist painting to learn what the artist was thinking, right? We listen to artist music, any of this. If you really wanted to truly know God, why would you read a book that a man told you to read? And I promise you guys, as depressing as this may sound, there's nowhere on the face of this freaking earth that you're going to go to where they're going to know more about God than you. I promise you. God has not came to any person one-on-one and gave them some kind of divine knowledge that was specifically for them and not you, in the face of people starving to death. That would be stupid. Please understand that. For God to choose you personally and say, I got a message for you to give the world, it's stupid. It's very stupid. And it's not, because we would know it's not going to work. We know it won't work. You're going to have naysayers, right? Naysayers all the time. You know, it's so funny, man, but when you find people in religion who take, okay, from Christianity, the religion side, Islam, the religion side, in order to continue to accept it, they do like, kind of like you said earlier with Masonic, right? You have some people who look at it as enlightening and some people who want to push the religare side of it. So you'll have people who say, you know what? I understand that Jesus is just a fictional character, an allegory, but I do want to aspire to be like him. I understand that Jesus Christ means enlightened one. And I want to be enlightened like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, any of these people that were also supposed to be enlightened or Christs, right? But at the end of the day, we do this because it's like we want to accept the literature because it has some nice things in it. My whole thing is this. If we understand that this literature was plagiarized, why not get the information that it was plagiarized from and want to research that? Instead of saying, I'm still going to try to use this manipulated piece of junk and find good in it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we understand it's simply astronomy, right? And then what kings has added in on their own to justify slavery. This is why you hear conquest always being condoned. People say, find me one scripture that justifies slavery. Well, how about go in and kill all the men and women and all the children, all the women who have known a man, and keep all the virgins to yourself? What do you think that's saying? Like, what do you really think that is saying, though? Keep them to yourself. That is justifying slavery. Keep them to yours. It didn't say leave them where they are to do what they want to do. It said keep them. Now, if somebody tells somebody to keep me, I know what that means. Keep me to themselves. They own me. You understand what I'm saying? That justifies slavery. But I'm talking about a churchgoer will say, find me that scripture. You didn't know that was there? Like, what's wrong with you? And that's the stuff that gets me hot, because I'm like, you read this stuff, you go to church, and you still are completely, I mean, the truth eludes you. And it's like you go listen to these preachers, you think they holy men, you respect them and look inspired by them, look up to them. So much so you scared to confront them. But the truth is, you your own problem, because you won't even read the stuff. So it's like we're upset at these preachers for lying to them, but man, they their own problems. When the literature is specifically saying this stuff, and yet you want to run to a church to have somebody preach it to you because he say he anointed. Give him your money and leave saying I got preached to. Man, if you don't change, you ain't never going to wake up. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, the people who right now listening. You go to church every Sunday, and this man, trust me, is controlling your mind. Even if he's not intentionally doing it. If you're buying what this person is saying without critically challenging it, you're looking to be deceived. Like you're actually asking for it. Tell me something good so I can believe in it and have dopamine. You see this all the time. Sit around in church and they have testimonial service. One person stand up and say a story, the next person, so forth and so on, and nobody critically challenges the other person. And you know, whatever you say, everybody's going to go along with it. You can say God gave me a job even though I put the app in and was qualified. And nobody's going to say God didn't do that for you. You can say God got me to work on time when I know I left the house 2 minutes after I normally leave. And nobody's going to say, well, I don't think God care what time you get to work whenever you could have woke yourself up and got to work when people starving to death. You see what I'm saying? Like you would think that. And the people who sitting in church who've been praying for stuff all week, you think they say, well, since God did all that for you this week, why did he ignore me? Right? My child died. Right? My such and such died. I prayed for them to be healed, but God would rather bless you with a car while my son was dying over here. You see what I'm saying? But church don't work like that. They just gonna say, amen, he did it for you. Won't he do it? And no matter what you say, it's just he's good God. Exactly, Jamal. And we're gonna all shout and get excited for this person. And it's a pep rally. It goes unchallenged. It's facts though. And the kids sit around and hear this crap. And eventually they get good enough to do it. They start practicing at home, do they not? They start playing church, practicing at home. Then they go to church, and all of a sudden they good. And the parents looking at them saying, oh, God really blessing little such and such. No, they copying you. Like they got your exact shout. They got your exact shout and everything. Like what you mean? I didn't know shouts were hereditary. Like I didn't know the Holy Spirit hit you in hereditary ways. Like I'm going to touch you the same way I touched your mama. Oh, it's the same shout. Look at her. I don't think it worked like that.
Those videos go super viral on Facebook too.
It's crazy.
It continuously reinforces their belief and make them feel better about it. You know when those sermons were preached, Kevin? Those sermons were preached back when Africans were slaves in America. When Africans were slaves in America, they would preach those sermons to those Africans to make sure they understood this is why you're a slave.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But you preach that nowadays because we're not in that same type of slavery.
That's a fact.
You can't teach it. So now you got to teach a prosperity. Now you got to teach something that they can get down with and don't allow them to really study what was old. And even if they did study it, there's another thing that's not going to free them. And that's something that Jamar said alluded to a little bit earlier. And that is that fear of hell. That fear of hell will make you accept whatever that book says to be able to convert whatever is being said in there into something that's good for you because they're scared of hell. They're scared of what will happen to them when they leave, not realizing that they're already living in a hell. And it's a hell that they create themselves. Right?
That's a fact.
Or they allow somebody else's thoughts to create a hell for them because you're allowing somebody else's thoughts and actions to dictate what happens in your life. It goes back to law of cause and effect. This person over here, they implemented a cause, and instead of you doing your own causal factors, you're just the effect. So now you're living in a hell. But they're too scared. And when they read the book, they'll go, well, this don't make sense to me. Let me go read this concordance. And let me go read what this church father said who was back in the days of slavery and killing folks. And maybe I can understand from them so that it doesn't bother me today. And that keeps them into that same mentality instead of just thinking through it, understanding the history and the timelines so that it doesn't affect them that way. And then, like Jamal said, then figuring out where to go to just get true understanding of who you are and your divinity within so that you can truly become the greatness that you have within yourself.
Yeah, I mean, once you let all of that stuff go, man, and you realize the power that you actually have as a human being, as a conscious being, you know, whatever you want to call it, a spirit, a soul, when you realize that you have a connection to every being on this planet, to every living thing, every planet, every stone, every rock, the stars, everything. When you realize that you don't need to pray to something to make something happen, you can manifest something in your life. You know, I can only speak personally. You know, once I left that stuff alone, I was able to progress a lot faster in life. The things that I have been trying to do over the past 30-something years, I haven't been able to do in the amount of time that I've been able to do it now in about like 6 months to a year time. You know, just as a personal testimony of letting this stuff go. You know, somebody also asked, I think a brother, I want to address somebody in the feed here. He asked, you know, if there is no God, you know, where do you go when you die? You know, you can actually, we can test to this, and we can actually, through science, tell you what happens to you when you die. It's all there, and it's written in Kemet 2 on the walls exactly what happens to you when you die. We all know the body decomposes, right? It goes from a solid to a liquid to a gas. That's what happens. That's what all things do, and we see it happen every single day. That's what's going to happen to you when you die. And you're going to go back to your original state on a molecular level. When you understand science on a quantum physical level, then you can understand what happens on a greater level. It's called as above, so below. That's the concept that was given to us in Kemet by your African ancestors. And they tell you what happens to you after you die, how the sun lifts you up. This is where the concept of Jesus comes into play, where the Son of God taking you up into the heavens. You can see the sun, how it lifts dust off of a mantle in the morning. If you have a little dust on your windowsill, you see the sun lift up the positively charged electrons, and it gets lifted up. That's where you get the rapture from. You understand? Because when you die and you decompose and you go back to a conscious molecular level, those things, those cellular organisms do what they're supposed to do. You understand? They have a consciousness. They know what they're supposed to do. So we gotta start dealing with science more, things that are tangible that you can actually see in front of you, as opposed to somebody selling you something, selling you a dream that ain't never gonna happen. Ain't nobody ever been to heaven or been to hell and back. Okay, anytime you ask them to prove it, they're gonna say, well, it was just me personally, this is what happened, and you just need to believe it. You understand? They can't never actually prove anything to you.
That's what I was just about to say. So, during the comments, we're gonna have people say a whole lot and say that we are just rambling and don't know what we're talking about. But and again, they always ask me to do debates, and people know I don't debate. And when I say no, I won't debate them, they always think they're special. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Brother Abu Adam, I'm gonna address you real quick. He said, I heard Kemet's, and it's Kemet's, not Chemic. It's Kemet's worship monkey. Is that real? No, they do not worship monkeys. They use, or they anthropomorphize symbols. So the animal would represent, if you know the characteristics of a monkey, mm-hmm. right, then you can put them on the head of a human body and know what that human is now doing, right? So in a case where, let's say a cow, we all know that cows are loving, nurturing animals, right? They nurse their young. So if you put a cow's head on a woman, what does that say about that woman? The language of the African people was a visual language, and they used pictures to portray what they were trying to say. This is the early developments of making language and letters. Before there was letters, there was pictures. This is why they say pictures is worth 1,000 words, because you have to understand basic history. Before words were created, what were we doing? It started off with just utterances, where we would actually say things. Nothing was written down. Then we started to draw pictures to depict what we were trying to say. And we used the things around us that we saw to portray those images and portray those stories. So we drew pictures of animals and we put them on the heads of people to tell you the actions that we were trying to tell you that we were doing. There was no worship. Yeah, there was no worship of animals. They didn't have gods back then. The word God is not written anywhere on those inscriptions because it had not been created yet. Right. You see what I'm saying? We dealt with nature, and we understood we had a direct connection with nature. So we used animals to describe what was going on. If you see a dog's head, we all know dogs is the first ones to come and find you when you're dead. right? They're the ones that'll sniff you out and dig you from out of the ground when you're dead. This is where we get the term man's best friend, because a dog will find you when you're dead. So the dog represented, or the jackal represented, somebody burying someone, or sahufying, or what we call mummifying a dead body, because they were the ones that dealt with dead bodies. They were found around cemeteries. You understand? We weren't worshiping them. We were trying to tell you a story of what was going on. So if you understood what the characteristics of that animal was by living in Africa, you could understand the story.
And I'm gonna say this right here, just to add to what you just said too, and hopefully this helps with the question that he asked. For example, like he said about the dogs, when they would use the dog for Anubis, so to speak, and with mummification, what they would notice is that when these dogs would dig inside of these graves, they would eat out the intestines, right, the entrails, and what would happen is it would cause the actual body to decompose at a slower rate, thus mummifying the actual body. So they learned this and started removing the organs so they could themselves mummify people. And so this is why they gave this to the person they learned it from. They gave the credit to the person they learned it from, which was a jackal. Simple facts. Yes. And this is how it's been done. You know, like you said, the first actual deity or energy that was ever had homage paid to it was a woman, and she was symbolized using a cow. Again, even the Bible calls God calls himself in the Bible El Shaddai, which means breasted one, or one with many breasts. This is what an udder symbolizes, many breasts. It's mother. It's a symbolism that means motherly. This is why it was destroyed whenever the Israelites was worshiping this golden calf. This is why Krishna, okay, during the Bhagavad, he destroys a golden calf. A calf. And so it's the same thing whenever you see this stuff happen and they're moving from one age or one representation or symbolism to another, or anthropomorphized idea, they're moving from one idea to another. They use these stories where God or either the gods will get angry over you worshiping the wrong way. And again, this calf has been used over and over. Dionysus, Mithra, Krishna, Yahweh in the golden calf story, over and over and over. It seems to be a problem with whatever God people believe in and a cow. Every single time. It makes you wonder where they got the word holy cow from, seeing as how the first deity ever paid homage to was a woman who was symbolically used as a cow. It's funny.
And let me add to it. Everything that Jamar and Kevin are saying, we also, when people are going back and they're trying to study this kind of information, they have to realize, and this is one of the things that's irritating, because people will say, well, what scholar, what's your source, what's your scholar, what's your source? And they may recite somebody who went to Oxford or somebody who went to Princeton or something like that. But you have to realize that when you're studying, when a lot of the so-called scholars are coming from the understanding that the colonizer had of what they was doing. So when the colonizer rolls in and they see that, oh, they got this person with a human with a jackal head, they're thinking, oh, they're worshiping a jackal or worshiping a dog, worshiping a spider. When they go to Nigeria, they say, oh, they're worshiping a spider. They're not understanding what they represent. So if you truly want to know what it means, not what it means, is that you have to study what the people who originated with it, what they understood, not what the colonizer understood, what they understood. So all this so-called scholarly work is coming from people who didn't know, and they're trying to take how they think and impose it on the people and say, this is what I know. You may think you know what you're thinking, but no, this ain't what you think, because based on me as a colonizer, this is what you would think, and this is what you were doing,
right? And
not paying what they was doing. And if you want to understand what Jamar was saying about as above, so below, then you have to go and study the law of correspondence, so that you can understand that even at the mineral level, there's a consciousness that's at work. That even minerals, things that the mineral mind has likes and dislikes, things that repels it, things that it's attracted to, it has its own mind. And as you go through the different levels of correspondence, as above, so below, there are different mental consciousness that are at work. So when you die and you go back into your next state of consciousness, you're still a conscious being, just at a different level of correspondence. Whether you're at a plant mind, animal mind, spiritual mind, mental mind, whatever level it is.
That's bombs. He's dropping bombs right now. I hope y'all listening. Lorenzo, like for people,
that's how you research. And I know that when people are coming out of religions, there's a book. There was a Coptic Christian writing, the Gospel of Thomas, and the second saying in that one was a saying that I actually love to death. It says that seek and you will find, but when you find, you will be disturbed. But once you are disturbed, you will marvel. And after you marvel, you will reign over all. Basically, when you're coming out, you go through phases. You will go through the phase of, dang, what have I been mistaught? That disturbs me. It's hard. Do I go? Which way do I go? Do I straddle the fence? Now I got to deal with all this junk in my head and try to figure it out. But once you start figuring it out, then you marvel because it's like, man, this is amazing. And then after you fully understand what was amazing to you, now you start to reign over your life and understand your consciousness and how this universe works and how everything works. But most people will go through those phases. And I know a lot of the people who listen to us go through those phases. Some of them are in that phase of anger. Some of them are in the phase of distrust. Some are starting to come out of it and starting to marvel at everything that's like you brand new, like
wow, yeah, you're right.
And now you not got out and you getting that first steak, you know, and you ain't had steak in 25 years. And it's like, man, I forgot how good it could be. You know, we don't eat a lot of meat around here, but you know what I'm saying. So
it's like what you said earlier when you first started off, Lorenzo, and just tell me if I'm wrong, but you were talking about different levels of consciousness and understanding. Even at a molecular level, your body responds and is attracted or not attracted to certain things. Well, I think that with Hinduism, okay, so to speak, it teaches people who study Hinduism more about that aspect of knowledge way more than Christianity does with the Tao, because the Tao is an understanding that everything universally is connected, that we are all universally connected divinely. You see what I'm saying? If I can use that word, but Christianity doesn't necessarily teach that. You see what I'm saying? So people look at Hinduism,
all that out of you.
Absolutely. So they'll look at Hinduism and judge them.
And even when you get to the purity of Hinduism, the purity of it, that body of the creator was broken into multiple parts to teach you the different understandings of your body and your consciousness. But what the Hindus wind up doing when man corrupted it, they began to utilize that to put people in the caste system that they wound up being in, right? So if you wind up being at the feet, then that meant that you was at the bottom and you were meant to be stepped on. So they use that as a caste system. But prior to that, the knowledge understanding of that was that when you're working through consciousness, then you are Brahmin, right? And then you go down the chain based on whether you're the arms, the body, the legs, and so on and so forth. But yeah, they were teaching consciousness of different correspondence levels
absolutely
at first. But then it got, man's hands on it.
Right.
And we want to keep in mind that the areas that are dealing like the Brahmin, the areas that are dealing with that, even Hinduism, one of the earlier religions, these are African people that came over and migrated into those areas. They have the strongest spiritual base of how originally we had things done. So if you want to get back to the source of how we really did things on a spiritual level, then you're going to want to take a look into Hinduism, even Buddhism a little bit. Those two were like the first people, the first generations of African people that migrated out, and they kept those spiritual principles, even though they changed those names and was separated for quite some time through different flooding and things of that nature. They still kept those original principles for the most part, and that's why they are the way they are. They're very peaceful people, So,
right. And
you can learn a lot from that.
When you study when you really get in, like Jamal, I know you study chakras a lot, but when you look at the chakras of the planet right now, most people agree who study chakras will agree that the crown chakra of the earth is currently located in that Tibetan area right now. That's why enlightenment is so strong and the consciousness is so strong there. Why they don't have the earthly attachments so as much as we do in other parts of the world. Whereas that foundation chakra, which can hold a lot of fear, right around here in America,
right where we are, and that's major. And I'm glad you said that, because that gives you the concept of as above, so below, where everything on a larger scale also happens within inside the body on a molecular level, also happens within the cosmos. That's what we mean by that concept of as above, so below. That everything that's big happens on a smaller level. So when somebody said any concept that they give you, if they can't duplicate it on a smaller level, chances are it's a fraud. You have to be able to duplicate whatever there is in the universe that's real, that was made by whatever creator there was, whatever created all this. There had to have been something mathematically inclined that created all of this that we have here. Whatever that thing used to make this world, it did it on a level to where it keeps replicating. It starts off big, and then it just keeps replicating, and you can see it, you can study it. It's very tangible. It's not something that's spaced out that you can't actually test.
And the thing is, you don't have to even necessarily be looking for it. I see people comment and say, "Wow, these guys are so smart," but it's like if you really understood, like if you were to just but take the time, you will start seeing the connections yourself. Like if you watch several different movies, you'll be able to see the correlations between the movies and how it was taken and what was taken from what, and without even having to necessarily look for it. Like for me, obviously, I just knew about Christianity, but the more I started studying like Hinduism and then with Kemet, and all of a sudden, man, it's just wow, right? Just like Lorenzo said, when you finally get to that point to where stuff starts to make you say wow, because it makes so much sense. And when it hits you, it's like, why didn't I see it the entire time? You know, like just an example was when I first learned that Horus, 4,000 years before Jesus, raised a man from the dead named El Azarus. Now, when I learned this, it blew my mind. El Azarus, which means the sun. Like Asura means the sun, right? So Lasura means the sun, guys. So when it says that Jesus raised Lazarus, it's referring to the sun, right? But it's just funny that Horus raised a man from the dead named El Lazarus. They just took the L and made it L, right? The EL and made it L. It's just amazing. It blew my mind. What's the odds of a man raising a man? Like, why would God take that idea and say, I'm gonna say my son raised a man named Lazarus from the dead? You know, I'm just gonna, no. Like, it's obvious that it's plagiarized. And like I said, learning those type of things are what really blew my mind, because there's no way that a real all-knowing God would do that. Like, you can't come up with another way. He couldn't have raised somebody from the dead with another name. Like, his name had to be Lazarus, right? Like, you know how crazy that sounds. His name had to be something that can be derived from son. Okay, cool, whatever, man. The same way as Jesus, you see.
I tell people, if you went to court, right, and somebody accused you of a crime and you had to go to court for it, and they accused you of a murder, and the judge only wanted to hear your side of the story before she made her deliberation, before they made their conviction, how would you feel in that moment? Would you feel that it was just? Would you feel that it was right? The verdict that was laid down upon you? So think about religion in this way. If the only religion you've ever dealt with is the one that your parents gave you, and they're telling you that this is the right way to go, or whoever told you, your religion, don't you think you owe yourself the due diligence, considering this is something of how you're going to live your entire life by, right? You only get one life. And as all these religions say, only you are going to be there when it's time to be at the chopping block. Only you going to be there, nobody else. Mm-hmm. Don't you think that you deserve to take the time to see all these other religions and see what even the information that they may have compared to what yours is? Even if you wanted to prove it right to somebody, don't you think you deserve them the respect to understand what's going on before you make a decision and make a judgment call about anybody else? You should take all these different religions, all the information, put it together so you can see what's right and wrong. Find out why they say your religion is so great, if it's that great. If you want to take that approach, find out why it's so great and see what happens. See what happens when you start delving in certain areas.
Like I told the brother earlier, Jamal. He said, where do I start? Because I'm trying to get out of religion. I said, surround yourself with people that don't agree with you. It's easy, man, to surround yourself with people that do. You go to church, and again, like I said, you can stand up and say a testimony and say God himself told you something. The preacher can stand up there and say the Lord just dropped this in my spirit and preach to you. In those type of avenues where stuff can go unchallenged, it's not healthy for a mind to even grow, period. You always need somebody challenging you. Always. Like in anything. If we're trying to reconstruct anything right now, if we're trying to build a building, right? If I bring you my blueprint, Jamal and Lorenzo, and you guys are going to have to be the ones to build it, and you see something that don't line up, are you not going to challenge it? Hey, man, you think this going to hold up? Right? Where's your foundational wall? Right? If I don't have none of that, though, but I want y'all to just go to work. How stupid is that?
That's the misunderstanding when people say iron sharpens iron, right? Mm-hmm. Iron can only sharpen iron when it's abrasively going at each other. It doesn't sharpen if they just sitting up there, playing twinkle toes with each other.
Right.
Imagine putting
My bad, Lorenzo. Just real quick. Just imagine putting like a sword into a fire, right? And you pull that big sword out and it's red. And that's when you start beating that steel with that hammer to get it to bend. That hammer is metal. It's steel. So is the sword. Iron sharpening iron comes from you banging up against it. Again, that's not something that somebody agrees with you. That's beating it up against that metal to get it to be pliable because it's hot. At that moment, you can work it and manipulate it. So you got to do it when it's hot. So iron sharpen iron come from, like Lorenzo said, being in constant disagreement with you to pull the best out of you, not agreeing with you.
Exactly. And you know, the Babylonians, and I'm about to steal the title of this, so nobody steal the title of this, okay? Y'all got this? I'm saying it right here on video, so I got evidence. I'm stealing the title of it. But the Babylonians, in order to make their society better, they had what was called, within the gardens of the Babylonian garden, Hanging Gardens, the biggest building was the Temple of Learning. I'm still in that name, Temple of Learning.
Hey, that's great. I was just telling Josh last week I was going to start the Temple of Learning. I'm just playing, man. Hey, man, I'm about to pull a Yahweh on you.
But you know the thing about it, in the Temple of Learning, what they've seen in all the Sumerian tablets that they were able to find is that in this Temple of Learning, nothing was preordained. You just walked into a room. Now, certain people, they had certain clout, right? And that person with that clout, they may be holding class in one room all the time. And so you kind of knew what they were talking about every time you went in there. But it was an open forum where the lowest citizen can be in there with the so-called highest citizen, and they all could debate. They all could talk about issues and debate the issues. So that was a true understanding of iron sharpening iron. Absolutely. And this was with the Babylonians long before there was any church fathers writing anything about iron sharpening iron. This was the Babylonian mindset that allowed the Babylonian kingdom to continue to grow and expand, because they understood that wealth wasn't just in their being a great trade route, but was in the knowledge of the people is where the wealth was. And so, like, that's one of the things that I believe it was King Sargon II, or one of them Sargon kings, established in Babylon to make sure that the people kept growing. And that's an understanding of iron sharpening iron. And yes, I'm Temple of Learning. That's me.
I like that. Now watch this right here, because I see everybody keep letting out and know that the Bible is full of astrology or astronomy. I'm gonna give y'all one real good one before we go. Now, you remember I just spoke about earlier with God telling Abraham to kill his son Isaac, right? And he tells him that I'm going to bring the lineage of Jesus through you because you are obedient, and we're going to kill my son, right? Now, we've talked about so many times how the Bible's God Yahweh and Moses represent, and Abraham, of course, represent Aries. Any picture you see of these guys carved in Rome, they have little horns, right? I think I did a whole show showing people where Moses and Abraham represent Aries, which is why they're all talking about lambs, right? Moses has you slay lambs, right? And then, of course, Abraham with the sacrificing of his own lamb, which is why the sun was in the zodiac of Aries. Now, here's what's crazy. God promises Moses that he's going to do this favor for him, right? Which is bring Jesus through his lineage, right? Watch this right here. If you go to Easter, which is what? March the 1st? April 1st, right? April Fool's Day. The constellation of Aries goes from April, the 26th, all the way to March the 26th. So Easter is in Aries every single year. Why is Easter in Aries? You see my point? It's clear. It's just zodiac. It's all zodiac. If God promises to bring Jesus through Abraham, and Abraham is Aries, look at when Easter is had. He said, I'm going to provide the lamb, right? And he provides the lamb right during Aries, right after Pisces, which is representation of Jesus, right? It's clearly zodiac. And listen, man, I could do this crap all day. Myself, Lorenzo Jamal, could sit here and take the beginning of the Bible from Gemini and take you all the way to that throughout this Bible and show you guys where these astral symbolisms are being used. It's simply the sun from beginning to end, no problem. And it's simply sun moving throughout the constellations of the zodiac. It is astronomy. It is. Or astrology, however you want to look at it. Astronomy, of course, because it does map the stars. Astrology, because it applies, attributes and personalities and things to the actual. That's the difference between astronomy and astrology, right? They're both mapping the stars, but one of them is going to apply certain, characters and things like that to it. Personalities and things like that. But the Bible's full of both. Every single zodiac character is going to act exactly like they're supposed to act, just because it's astrology, not because people are geniuses and can write amazing stories, or that it actually happened. It's that it was copied from zodiac, and there's a template to go by. If you understand the template, we can sit down and draw a comedy now. We can sit down and make a show now. Comedy, of course, guys, for those who don't know, just means entertaining. It doesn't actually mean for something that's funny. Like, if you don't know, Jesus is a comedy. Believe it or not, any story that ends in a happy way is actually a comedy by definition. And Jesus is the ultimate tragedy, number one, but it's the ultimate comedy. Think about it. This is how it's accepted on such a large platform by so many people. You take a man who was supposed to be perfectly innocent, never done anything wrong to anybody, but gets the most harsh treatment you can imagine, beaten and put on a cross and killed. For nothing. Didn't do anything wrong. Thank you so much, LaShawn. I'll see you soon, bro. The 25th, bro, this month. But yeah, so again, you take this story now of this man that was supposed to be so innocent. He's now beaten and martyred, or whatever. And so, of course, people are going to connect with that, right? Because he's supposed to be so innocent. Look at what happened to him. It doesn't make it any more true than if he wasn't innocent. You see what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we should care more about the facts surrounding it, more so than how much hope it gives us. Any person who believes they're going to a hell and that somebody's going to save them from that hell is going to get hope from what you're giving them, right? So why keep it just because it gives hope? If the only hope is because you thought you was going to hell, is that real hope? Like, I hear Christians say it all the time. Why take their hope? It's only hope because they think they're going to hell. Like, if I tell you you're not going to hell, what more do you need? You see what I'm saying? Now, I get that life, we go through life, but a lot of times, guys, what's hurting you in life is your ignorance. A lot of the things that, for instance, myself, I suffered from cancer back when I was 30, right? 30. I'm 35, and male breast cancer, right? And I was bodybuilding at the time. I was humongous, right? Working out. I didn't know why I had this, why I was being bothered by this. So my prayer to God, my mother died when I was 3 years old of cancer. So here, she was 33, I was 3, right? Now, here I am, 30, thinking that the same thing can happen to me. I'm praying, God, I eat healthy every day. I do all of this stuff right. Why am I getting cancer? From my understanding, I was eating healthy and did not deserve cancer. But here's the truth, Lorenzo and Jamal. I was loading up on protein every day. Bruh, steaks, chicken. I was eating carcinogens like crazy. Not your average diet of heavy meats and product. I'm talking about I was going in. Drinking eggs. Like, I'm serious, bro. Like, I did that to myself. And in my mind, I was mad at who I thought was God for allowing this to happen to me, because under my training, under my understanding, I was eating healthy. My ignorance was my enemy. You understand what I'm saying? So what's hope when you have knowledge? That's what we need. We need knowledge. You see, why hope for a house to one day be built when you can have the knowledge to build one? And it takes care of everything. Thank you very much, Courtney.
No, exactly that, brother. Exactly that. And I mean, I was talking to my kids earlier, and I was telling them that, you can't. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is a punishment. Ignorance is jail. It's prison, right? Because out of ignorance, you fall into the traps of what other people has deemed for you and not for yourself. And that even when you gain knowledge, that knowledge is only power when you put it into action. Mm-hmm. Because, and I did a video, I think I posted it this morning or yesterday, where I was talking about the fact that, you know how we grew up with the saying, when you know better, you do better? Mm-hmm. Nah, that's not true. We know better to do a bunch of things, but we still don't do it, right? We know that if you spend more money than you make, then you're going to be poor and broke and in debt. We know that, but we still do it over and over again, month after month. We'll still keep doing it, and we won't We don't want to go through the pain of saying, okay, let me put the brakes on. Let me use the knowledge that I have to better handle my finances. Let me use the knowledge I have to have a better relationship with my family, my friends, my loved ones, my spouse. Let me use this knowledge. Let me put it into practice, put it into action on a daily basis. Let me eat right. Let me not just eat the bodybuilding food, but let me actually understand how food works with the body, right? How these steroids work with the body, you know, because I didn't go as hard as you as far as body. I was in the Marine Corps, so I couldn't gain as much weight. But yeah, I felt bad even though I was, you know, was doing the natural bodybuilding. And I didn't understand why until I started understanding, well, this nutrition is not working. My body can't function this way. It's not good for me. But when we do it, we have to like totally come into a being of the knowledge that we have in order for us to do better and have a better result of life. So, you know, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of. They're afraid of, you know better, but you still just won't do it. And you have to do it. And you have to become it. You know, and as you become it, that's when you get that enlightenment. There ain't nothing special about me or Jamar or Kevin or Josh. Well, maybe Josh, but there ain't nothing special about us that no one else out there can obtain, that no one else can have to do.
Thank you, Tracy.
You know, I talked about how Pythagoras didn't think that people should be able to have, the average person shouldn't be able to have the information. Well, he was wrong. The average person can have it and should have it. Just like, and I know this is going to crush some people's little bubble, but the Yeshua character, he had a message for certain people, certain disciples, and he had a message for the masses, and he had a message for all his 12. Why should people not get all the information? That's hiding information as well, because, and if people don't have it, then they can't act on it. But when they have it, then it's their responsibility to act on it. Now, true, there are some people who, if you give them knowledge, they can act inappropriately on it. They can use it to hurt people, control people. And those are the ones that we have to be mindful of. And that's where we have to make sure that we are standing against the tyranny of that. The tyranny of people who are selling people into slavery, of people who are selling people into a mental slavery, selling people into financial slavery every Sunday, giving that 10% and not showing them how to actually manage their money. I wouldn't mind if they asked for money, if they was then showing people on a weekly basis how to manage their money and to support their community. I wouldn't mind it then. But we have to stand up in defense of those people who are not ready to use their knowledge and become into that being of knowing their fullness and their full potential. So let me get off my.
Thank you very much, Thug Lord. No, dude, you absolutely right, Lorenzo. 100% right. I was with you every step of the way.
I wanna help my brother Alton in the feed real quick, brother Alton. Let me help you real quick. Just think in Africa, right, when we first got here, and I want you to just forget all biases that you may know. This may be difficult for you, but I need you to understand this. Let's just think that from the first moment the first human being came into Africa, even if you want to think from a biblical sense, in the Garden of Eden, right? First person being born. From that develops the first science. And what do you think that science would be? If you got placed here on Earth, right here on this planet, didn't know anything about planet Earth, first thing you're going to do is you're going to look up in the sky. First and foremost, like, what the hell is this? When night comes, and you're going to say, what are these lights going on here? How do I get there? What do they do? Well, I'm seeing they're doing patterns every day, and they're shifting. They're not staying, they're doing a shift here. Astronomy, astrology was the first sciences. The study of the stars was the first science that was ever developed. And reason being is because we had to create time. We had to figure out how long we've been here. You know, we had to figure out, you know, what is a day, right? These are the first things that we tried to figure out. From there, we wanted to figure out how do we give birth to children. So the next science would be to study the woman, the body of a woman. You understand? So astrology existed well before any religion was created. That was the basis of all religion. Religion was created so that we not go against the laws that were created by the universe. When we dealt with astrology, we understand if a star is in a certain position that a flood is coming. You understand? Because this is the season for it. We understood that. We understood that this is a time to plant seeds. This is a time to reap our harvest. This is a time when the flood comes. That was very important to the original primordial beings that first got here was when do we do what we do to survive? It was all about survival.
And it actually speaks to the characters that they used during that time. Like you said, it speaks to the harvest and everything.
We created these characters to tell the story to our children so that they can understand it. They could carry the story on from one person to the next to their children and teach their children for survival. These religious stories were not meant to be taken literally. They were allegorical things that you would tell even your child. Some of y'all celebrate Christmas and you say, yeah, Santa Claus brought this for you. Why? You tell them that because you don't want them to think that money just grows on trees. So you just tell them, you know, Santa Claus got it for you, because if you say that, yeah, I bought you all of this, you know what I'm saying? They come like, oh, my parents is rich. You're going to be buying me presents all year long. Everybody knows that who has kids. You can't tell them that too early. You got to tell them something else. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where, you know, these things, all of these stories that were allegorical, the Bible, the biblical stories is the grown-up version of Santa Claus. You understand? It's so that you could stay in line. But some of us have taken it to the extreme and we corrupted it. We realized the power that was in it, how we could control people, and that's how it got to where it was. But it did start with astrology, the study of the stars. That was the very first science, and anybody will tell you that. And there was nobody more in depth with tracking and keeping records of these sciences than the people in Africa in Kemet. And that's where you will find the origin of all of your religions, of all your stories.
Well, and it's crazy because oh, my bad, go ahead.
And you know, you can still find elements of that today, even in modern cultures. Next week in America, in most of America, is the beginning of daylight saving time, right? And if you understood why do we have daylight saving time, it was because of the farmers, the agriculture is why we had daylight saving time. It had nothing to do with religion, nothing. It's all about the farmers and crops. Another thing, if you read the Farmer's Almanac, they will always tell you that you have to plant. You plant during a growing moon. So from the new moon up into the full moon is your planting season for each month, right? And studying the stars, we also got our leap year. Now I'm gonna throw you something into our modern world of finances that deals on the same thing. If you notice, the Black Panther world premiere happened right before full moon, and then the first world preview happening right before full moon, and then a month later, at the next full moon, you get the all-out premiere of the movie right before the next full moon at a growing moon. Now that Disney has bought Marvel, and Disney is big into the astrology and astronomy, the Avengers Infinity War movie was supposed to happen right after the full moon. Now they moved it up a week ahead of time, right, so that it'll be right before the full moon of May.
Yeah,
we still use astrology. These corporations and people like that, people in power, still understands the impact of it. And like Jamar said, it goes all the way back to an understanding of the cosmos and the universe, right? And when you first start understanding that, you'll start understanding how studying everything else, you start to learn how to be as a being on this planet in this universe, and how you take care of everything else in this universe. Because when you understand how everything interacts, the natural flow of things, then as a human, you don't go destroy what keeps you alive, right? What keeps the universe in flow. You don't destroy what brings about the abundance of the universe. Like people are worried about the bees right now. You don't destroy the bees because the bees provide 80% of the pollination on the planet. So we can't destroy the bees, because if we destroy them, we're destroying ourselves.
Facts.
Right? So we learn how to take care of ourselves, how to take care of the universe, how to take care of everything on the planet by studying how nature has already set everything up perfectly to do so. You can't take an oak tree and put it in Antarctica and expect it to grow. It'll die. You can't take a polar bear and put them in the equator and expect them to thrive. They'll die. Man has the ability, the only creature on the planet that acts out of nature and destroys itself, because we get out of that sync. Whereas watching the universe, learning from the universe, gets us into the understanding of how to care for ourselves, care for one another, and care for everything else around us. And if you truly believe that you were given dominion over everything in heaven and earth, then you should come to that understanding that in order to have dominion over something, You have to understand the nature of it.
That's
that's
what
what-
we were created for.
Right. And that's what the naturers were created for, right? So that you can understand the nature
Absolutely.
of everything.
You got to
Yeah.
understand that you don't die. Okay, you don't die. You only change form. Energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes its form. You understand? So death is an illusion. You see, you're not worried about what you're going to dream about tonight when you go to sleep. And while you're dreaming, you're not worried about what's going on to the people that's walking around on the earth. You're not going to know the difference between life and death. You understand? It's a totally different plane of existence, a totally different level of consciousness. When you realize that you're connected to this, like when a plant grows up, when a plant grows in the springtime, right? Right? Do you think it's worried about what's going to happen in the winter when it has to go back down into the dirt? No, it's just going to do what it does. That's the same thing with human beings. But because we've separated ourselves from the concept, we put ourselves in our fancy little caskets and think of that nation, and we don't realize we got to go right back in the dirt. You understand what I'm saying? And we're going to recycle just like the planet does. We turn into minerals. We turn into dust. That's what happens when we get put in the dirt. You see, we can't just act like we just stay in the casket. No, eventually that stuff rots and it turns into what it's supposed to turn
Absolutely.
into, which is back into the planet, back into the earth. You see what I'm saying? But they sold y'all this concept that you're going to shoot up in the sky and fly into. You ain't never seen nobody do that.
Or even one day gonna get up out the casket. Now these people who've been dead for all these years, who ain't nothing but dust right now in their casket, they gonna get up and walk? Really? It's like, I don't think we really think about what they're saying. You think you're gonna see these people walking, like what? Their body just gonna go from being completely decomposed to somehow forming a mass again and muscle rebuilding itself to them actually up and walking around, bones and everything.
Yeah.
Like, come on now, that's the silly. It's so silly with that type of thought, This stuff is like you guys said. It's clearly showing how to get your body or get yourself aligned with nature. Like Jamal said, okay, you can see the seasons that's coming. Well, this is why the Virgo is holding a sheaf of wheat, because that's the month of harvest. This is why every single false god was born under this same Virgo sun, right? It brings forth the harvest. Look, example, Noah's Ark. That's Cancer, okay? Noah is represented by the Cancer, the crab. This is why Noah goes entombed inside of the shell of the ship, right? He goes into private, just like a hermit crab would do, which is the Cancer. If you go all the way back to Kemet, the Cancer was used representing a beetle, right? So you can see this Cancer everywhere, but the Cancer is one of the most powerful zodiac signs, literature out there. It means new beginnings, right? But the Cancer sign is very emotional, right? This is why God gets so mad and regrets making man and just gonna go overboard and destroy the whole world. It's a motif. It's not that God is evil. During this writing, someone's trying to bring to life the zodiac of the Cancer. So they're going to bring out the emotions of God, the anger, the passion that the Cancer has. Okay, Noah having to go entombed inside the ship for odd amount of days while this rain is supposedly coming. And again, new beginning, cleansing the earth, which is what is the meaning of the Cancer zodiac. And this is right there when the sun is in Cancer. Ironically, you get the flood, right? You get freaking Jonah and the whale. Why are all these stories coming right under the Cancer? You see what I'm saying? Again, it starts off with Gemini. You got twins. Gemini. You got Adam and Eve. This is positive and negative energy. Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel. The list continues to go. Then they start getting enslaved, right? With Adam and Eve eating the fruit, of course. All of a sudden they start being enslaved and having to work. That's Taurus, right? Spending your life being enslaved, having to work and having to plow the till just to get your food to come up. That's all Taurus. That's when you start seeing the Israelites go into Egyptian capture. Being brought out of Egyptian capture, it goes from Gemini to Taurus to Apis, or Gemini to Taurus. And that's when Taurus is going from Taurus to Aries. This is when you get the golden calf story telling you we're not in Taurus no more. We're moving on into the Lamb. And this is, again, it's all the way through. And I could keep going, guys. I mean, the list keeps going. All you guys have to do is take the time to study for yourself. I'm not saying study Zodiac with the intention of subscribing your beliefs or identity to Zodiac. I'm not asking you to wake up and check the newspaper to see what Virgo's supposed to be doing today. I'm simply asking you to look at how Zodiac was created and the personalities that was attributed to the Zodiac so you can understand how your religious books was made. That's a whole different story. I'm not asking you guys to believe in Zodiac. I'm asking you to simply study and understand the science in it. Before you can get anywhere, you should try to understand it. That's your problem with Christianity. You accepted it before you understood it. And that's what's funny. Earlier, my man Alton said, Krishna never did all of that. Krishna never existed. It's just funny to see someone just come out and say boldly that he never did it. Can you prove it? Can you prove Krishna never existed? Can you prove he never died for his people? Because again, when you go to India and see how largely Krishna is worshipped, I promise you, you won't feel like you got a leg to stand on. Over here in America, it's easy to see. You go to church, everybody seems to be worshiping Jesus. Just type in Hinduism in India and look at how large their masses are. Look at how they dress when they go. They're more serious than you are. And you think you about to just go tell these people Krishna never died. It's just the arrogance in that. You can say it because you've never studied it, you see? And that's the problem with, like, my man that was had the video earlier looking at all the books trying to say that they proved the Bible real. What about all the people who got all these books about Islam? You see what I'm saying? You think your books are real because they make you happy. You want them to be real, so you think your books lead to proof that your God is real. And you think everybody else's books lead to proof that their God isn't real. And it's all based on the first God you heard about. I had a relative the other day tell me, because they know I struggle financially since I lost my job. He told me to come back to Jesus. I swear to God, he told me to come back to Jesus. And in 3 months, my life would be changed. Now, before he asked me, he said, can I say something to you without you cussing me out? I said, what? And that's what he said it to me. I said, listen, man, I get out here and I feed the homeless. Do you know who I'm feeding? Christians who thank in Jesus for me feeding them. And you're asking me to accept Jesus and see my life change in 3 months. How you know I won't end up on the street beside them? You see what I'm saying? He got quiet. Like, did you really think all Christians was doing good? And if I needed to borrow money from you, could you loan it to me? Well, no, I couldn't do it right now. Why? You worship Jesus. I thought he was the golden ticket. You see my point? It's like to say this stuff to people, like if you just start believing. Right. And I said, listen, man, to think that somebody can just believe in Jesus and watch their life change in 3 months is stupid. Nobody can believe in something they don't believe in. That crap is impossible. I said, okay, why don't you believe in Wolverine and see how your life changed in 3 months? Well, I mean, why would I believe in Wolverine? Why would I believe in Jesus? What you talking about? Like, are you trying to get cussed out? Like, what you talking about?
Kevin. You know, my business mind is being turned on by that one right there. And by the way that Americans are mostly, and people in other countries, Christians and whatnot, you know that if you did go back, even if you believed it or not, just having the narrative that you was there, you left, you got all this stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I'll be the biggest preacher in the world. I'll be known worldwide.
Your life changed in 3 months, bro.
Yeah, like it really would be. He right.
I like that preacher who had to answer them questions about why he $30,000 in clothes and stuff like that. But still, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right.
They will massively follow you because they will say, "Oh, he stepped out. He came back because he saw it was so jacked up. Now he back." And I actually teach this in a bit when I'm talking about business, of how people don't want you to succeed in business because they know that if you go out and you succeed, then that means that they have the ability to go out and succeed again, but succeed as well. But if you go out and you try and you fail and come back, then they can see, I told you don't go out there and try that. Mm-hmm. That actually saves them from actually having to try and lets them stay happy in their own misery. So if you came out of Christianity, but then fail and go back to Christianity, then it makes them feel like, see, I don't have to go outside. I knew I was right. And I'm going to follow Kevin now because he's already done the painful work for me of stepping outside of it. Man.
Now watch this. I'm gonna say this right here before we end, because I'm sure all of you guys have saw this. Kevin, you just trying to get fame and all this stuff, right? Now, here's the facts. If I really wanted fame and fortune, like you just so eloquently put, would I not leave what I'm teaching now and go back to Christianity and teach Christianity is real? Because think about it. I wouldn't go to hell. No hell for me to go to. Hell don't exist, right? I'll be literally sitting here deceiving Christians, putting us in a worse position than we was to begin with, right? Now, what would it do for me other than give me a bunch of money? Now, if that was my mission, wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, and right now would be the hot time to do it too.
Right, exactly.
If I was a PR dude, I'd be like,
wait, I'm getting some. What? Jesus, is that you? Just playing.
I mean,
You were here the whole time and you was just playing? Oh, crap.
but I mean that's how it works. I mean, that's how. But think about that lady earlier. She said if it wasn't for the crack house, then God wouldn't be able to use me in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to go through the crack house? Why can't you just be blessed from day one and say, I've always been with God and look at my blessings. Look at what's been going on.
Right.
Why you got to have the crack house? Why you got to go through the crack house? You don't have to have that testimony. I would rather have a testimony of just greatness. You know, I don't want to hear that I got to go through pain. I got to go through all this struggle. But see, the problem is most people are going through struggle and pain because they're not understanding how those basic laws of the universe work. You know,
Right.
that in order for you to eat, you got to plant and nurture and continue and guard, and then you can harvest. You can't just sit up there and wait for the harvest. It doesn't happen that way. You know, you can't
Right.
just sit there and do that. But and it's in there. What's sad is that it's in their own books. In every book, it is in there of how to be prosperous in life, how to treat your spouse, how to treat your family, your neighbor. It's in there in every book of how to do everything, but yet just won't do it and would rather wait for some pie in the sky in order for them to get that great life that they wish they had or that they're always talking about they're going to get. Or it's just, I'll just wait for heaven. I'll just suffer through this hell now and wait for heaven because the meek, those who are last, will go first. I don't agree with that party.
I'm
the
definitely
mind
with
first
you.
gonna
We
be
have to
bored.
grow out of this. We have to grow out of this, man. I'm gonna ask y'all while I got y'all here. You know, I like to put people on the spot. I actually don't, but y'all want to be on next week, or will y'all be available? What y'all schedules look like?
I might be around. It's a Sunday. I don't gotta go to Harlem, so Sunday evenings is the best time to catch me. Actually,
Heck yeah. Jamal, matter of fact, before we get off, what you got going on this month? Ain't you got a couple places you speaking at?
I'll be in Dallas on March the 18th. For those of you who lives in Dallas, Texas, I'll be at the Pan African Connection at 7:30 p.m. And
You be at the Pan African Connection?
Yeah.
I'll be in the same spot. My manager must have booked the same exact spot. I'll be there the 25th.
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about you. He's gonna be booking you, I think, the next week.
Yeah, the 25th. Okay, yeah. Well, heck yeah,
Yeah,
y'all go check
absolutely.
Jamal out, man.
But everybody want to go
down.
to Dallas. I left Dallas. That's how y'all want to do that. Okay. That's fine.
Actually, man, Lorenzo, I'll be in Atlanta the very next week, the 31st.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was asking.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking in the Facebook chat.
Oh, yeah, Atlanta the 31st, guys. I'll get y'all the date. And I actually want to have Lorenzo there. My manager actually be calling you about that, Lorenzo.
It's gonna be
All right.
free. It's gonna be free to get in
Wait a minute,
too.
what day was that?
That's the 18th.
The 18th? Okay.
Yeah.
The Atlanta date.
No, Atlanta's 31st.
No, Atlanta's the 31st for him.
All right, that's cool. That could work. That would work for me.
All right.
Hey, Jamar, send me any promo stuff. Let's see. We can
Sure,
promote
I'll
it on
shoot you a
Kevin's
flyer.
page.
Yeah, definitely. We need to plan something together too, man. That'd be dope. All of us.
Yeah, facts. We do.
Mhm.
Hold on. I wanna hit up Alton before I go. I wanna have Alton real quick because he asked real intriguing questions, and I do want to address it real quick, Alton. One of the questions that he asked is, if we're gonna die anyway, why should I treat humans with respect or something like that to that nature, right?
Oh, man.
So hold on. He said, why should he care about the earth when we die? When we're going to die anyway. You know what I'm saying? And the reason being is you have to realize that you and the earth are one and the same, right? And you
Question:
don't
Does
actually-
Alton have kids? I just want to. You can go ahead and finish, Jamal. But Alton, do you have kids? But go ahead, Jamal.
Probably not. But the real question.
I bet he got kids. I bet he got kids.
The answer to your question, basically, Alton, and really no disrespect. I really want to answer your question because when you ask questions like that, really it shows your intelligence by the questions that you ask, right? So you're
Yes, I
obviously an
have
intelligent
kids.
guy
You see this? Yes,
by-
I
by
have
your
kids.
questions that you have, and I want to answer it because here's the thing: when you die, and I'll say even before you were born, when you die, you go into multiple places of existence. So you don't just become fertilizer. You become more powerful than you are as a human being inside of a body. As a human being inside of a body, you can only be in one place at one time. Before you was born, you were in multiple places of existence. You were in your father's sack, you were in your mother's womb. Okay? 2 separate places of existence, living 2 separate lives. You had more power then than you have now. You understand? This is how you had the information in the DNA to find your mother's breast, because you had already been here before. It's a cycle. And this is what you got to understand. When you die, you go back to that cycle. You see, when you turn into dust, somebody can breathe that dust in. You are now part of a human body cycle again. You understand? You're in multiple places of existence. In Earth, the air, everything is all connected. It's a system. And all you do is just transform back into that system. You understand? When you understand that, then you say, yo, I need to cultivate this system. Because this system is how if I wanted to return back into a human body, I could do that. You understand? It's science. It's basic science. This is what happens. We have people right now that's getting sick from what? The 9/11, right? They was breathing in the fumes from other human beings, dead bodies and all that. They still getting sick from it. It really actually happens. You understand? This ain't nothing we making up. You can actually track this. And the people of Kemet was trying to tell you how to do this in a clean way. This is why they sahufied the bodies and they cleansed the bodies so that when the bodies died, those type of things didn't happen. And it happened naturally in the right way. You understand? So that people can return back to the earth. So look into some of this stuff, because it can help change your viewpoint. It can help actually see that you can test some of this stuff to where it ain't just hocus pocus things that we making up and telling you. Feel what I'm saying? That's what it's about, brother.
And then again, Alton, you have children, so you honestly shouldn't ask a question like, why should you even care about the planet or the world at all? You leaving children behind. Like, you sound crazy. Like, what?
Even at a basic level,
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Like,
I would destroy the earth that you got to live on, and that hopefully you love your kids, and that they're going to live into.
So,
and
like,
hopefully you will grandkids, and they will go into.
Right.
I mean, that in itself is reason enough.
So what if Jesus ain't real? He just gonna blow the planet up like Majin Buu? What we doing? What were you saying, Josh?
I think we should do maybe a show on this kind of thinking. It's normal, like usually, like when a Christian's cornered, they usually resort to, what's the point? What's the point of all of it? Like, what do you mean? Like, why am I good? If it doesn't matter, like,
let's just kill everything. It don't matter now. Like,
now you don't have any compassion for yourself or fellow man, your children. You don't care about anything anymore just because
Jesus ain't real.
Right? Like, damn. Like, you're not. Like, he's never been real. Just like, it's not. There's nothing's changed. It's just they always. Go ahead.
And none of that makes sense, because if you think about it, before the colonizers came over to America, the Native Americans respected the land. They took care of the land. They knew the land provided for them. They didn't have a 10 Commandments. They didn't have the morale. They didn't need some other morality.
There are atheist countries right now who never heard of Jesus doing fine. You ain't gotta go there. You gotta talk about
and guess what the land is made of? Of dead carcasses, dead body that turns into dirt that you need to plant your crops. It's a cycle.
And you know one of the best Western countries, westernized countries to live in, that has the lowest amount of crime, has the highest education level, has the least amount of homeless and people impoverished, is mostly atheists.
Yeah, like Dubai. It's like so many places that's atheists, man.
Norway and Sweden are mostly atheists, and they don't have nowhere near the problems of religious countries.
Yep.
And they're not mass murdering each other, and they're mostly atheists.
In fact, religious countries have higher crime rates. Please tell me why.
And most of the people in prison are religious, and they were religious before they got there. They didn't convert. They were religious before they got there.
That's the funny thing. You see a
religious.
If they can pin a crime on a Muslim, then we need to get rid of Islam. But in fact, 99% of your crimes in America, I'm talking, that's from serial killings to rapes to shoplifting. They believe in Jesus. They're Christians, and they fill up your prisons. But yet we haven't put out a hit on Christians yet. you know what I'm saying? But we don't want. But we try to demonize Islam whenever we see they running the place with a bomb strapped to them. But let's look at all the things that Christianity has done just in this country alone. That's not white, black, or anything. Just the people who commit crimes that subscribe to Christianity. You know, I was just thinking like all the times that these preachers will stand up here and preach, and the whole time they're preaching, their God never tells them any useful information. I always find that to be real funny too. How they know a whole lot, like God gave them a word, but God didn't tell them the place was gonna get shot up. That's really amazing to me. Like God gave you a whole lesson to go teach some people that was about to get shot up, but He didn't tell you to teach them about that that's gonna get shot though. So what they gonna do with the message that you taught them? Take it to the grave with them? I don't really understand that. Obviously, this person does not exist.
It's a bunch of mess.
No, little guy, we're not going for 4 hours. We're gonna
No,
close.
we actually good.
You know, it's 11:22. Two master numbers right there combined together. It's time to get off this thing.
I like that. I like that, Lorenzo. Jamal, hope to have you back next week. And Lorenzo, you know if you're available, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
If I'm around, I'll definitely chime in. You already know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't forget
cool.
to send me the promo stuff.
Sir.
Hey, listen, let me
right.
thank everybody real quick. Thank you so much for watching. Jamal, thank you very much for coming on. Lorenzo, thank you. Lorenzo, I didn't ask if you had anything coming up this month.
Nope, not this month. Just some just some programs that I'm putting together to be on my website for people to be able to utilize information about fixing it and getting a better understanding of themselves and their spirituality. Just some things that I'll be putting out on my website for that, which is coachrenz.com.
There you go. So I was about to say, Jamal, you want to plug something?
Yeah, man. Y'all can find me on Facebook.com /Jamar Milton. That's JAM as in Mary, AARMILTON, Jamar Milton. Or you can find me on YouTube /Jamar Milton, JAMAARMILTON. Come and join the Lighthouse and get some of this African teaching, this African spirituality and sacred sciences. That's all I got to say, man. And I shout out to all my Lighthouse family that's in the feed today, that's watching the video. I appreciate the love and support. May the divine force in me be the divine force in you. Do I, family. Ashe. Peace.
Peace, brother. Peace, Lorenzo. And guys, in case you're wondering, the shirt is betheevolution.org. We have some other products on there as well. Of course, the album is out, The Rapture. Please go holler at that album and all that good stuff. And I'm going to go live and actually show some of that music here this week, too. So with that being said, I love everyone. Thank you for coming on. Again, thank you, Jamal. Thank you, Lorenzo, for your time. And thank you again, Josh, for being here to help orchestrate it all. You're the man, brother.
Josh.
All right. Peace.
Peace, guys.